What makes a rivalry? The smaller town down the road from the bigger town? The blast furnaces versus the glass towers? Grit versus slick? It is a tale as old as human history. And it's about more than football. When the two solitudes are now really just the eastern and western extremities of a single sprawling metropolis, you can still choose your identity by taking sides. One team with flashy big-name stars and the swagger that comes with a recent Grey Cup success. The other, self-defined by history, toughness, and just maybe a little chip on the shoulder. Double blue, black and gold. It was, and it remains, the perfect recipe for the deepest passions sport can inspire.
Down to the Final Four. Today we find out the two teams heading to Regina for the 109th Grey Cup. First off, the Eastern Final in Toronto, where the Argos host the Alouettes. So the two teams are meeting in this game for the first time in a decade. And then we head to a snowy IG field where the Bombers and the Lions meet in the Western Final for the first time since 1985.
There are lines everywhere on a football field to measure everything, to put boundaries everywhere, and to set the battlefield. But the line that matters most in November is the one that is definitive and elevates one above all. It's the line that sets the standard. Right now, the standard rises as high as Winnipeg. Mike O'Shea won't talk dynasty, but the roster of the back-to-back Grey Cup champions doesn't just include the CFL's best in near every position. The Bombers are all cogs in a machine that seemingly cannot be beat when it matters. Where the standard is going could be up to Nathan Rourke, because his standard lifts everything about the BC Lions. Rourke is unlike anything this league has seen in 50 years. A Canadian that just isn't a great quarterback. He's a Canadian who is becoming this league's best quarterback. What it means to be the best this late and later into November is what Trevor Harris and McLeod Bethel-Thompson want to experience. Harris is part of one of the CFL's great quarterback generations. Bo Levi Mitchell set the standard. Michael Riley set the standard. Zach Collaros is still the standard. Harris and the Montreal Alouettes believe he can set the line too. But when there's all that weight of all those other quarterbacks and their successes, the standard gets heavy. McLeod Bethel-Thompson worked throughout his long journey to be worthy to carry that kind of weight. Last year, Toronto didn't win the East Final, and second chances aren't something to mess with. Because reaching for that standard isn't a week-to-week pursuit. Not everyone gets the chance to see where the line is, and if it can be moved. Only those who've earned their way here. Welcome to Division Final Sunday.
You're looking at McLeod Bethel-Thompson, number one in passing yards this year in the CFL, 4,731, 23 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. He's going to need more of the first number and less in the second number if they're going to win today.
Trevor Harris came into the season as an insurance policy, or as I say, a just-in-case quarterback to Vernon Adams. Now he's just one win away from leading these Montreal Alouettes to their first Grey Cup appearance since 2010.
The greatest Canadian running back in the history of this league, in my opinion, Andrew Harris, back, and he will be huge because not only on the ground, but also a big part of that protection. And you know what, Montreal Alouettes bring the blitz. Big game for Andrew Harris.
Meanwhile, a nominee for the CFL's Most Outstanding Player Award, Gino Lewis, will look for a big performance today against an Argos secondary that recorded a CFL high 29 interceptions on the season, and Sunday finals is finally upon us. Hello, Canada, and welcome inside the CFL on TSN Studios. Kate Burness alongside David Sanchez, Matt Dunnigan, Milt Stiegel. Cannot wait for an entire day of football here on TSN. We'll get the panel's thoughts on this matchup in just a moment. But first, let us take you to both stadiums, starting with BMO Field and our Claire Hannon. We'll get to Farhan Lalji, very warm Farhan Lalji at IG Field in just a moment. But Claire, you've had a chance to speak to both teams, and what's the mood like right now at BMO Field?
Well, Kate, when I talk to everybody, whether it's with the Alouettes or the Argonauts, everybody is saying, can we just get this game going already? And it's interesting because the Alouettes, yeah, they played last week, but given the momentum they generated in that playoff win against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, they just want to get on this field. That was their first playoff win since 2014. And following the game, Trevor Harris said he felt the team had this soft focus, that it was a box they wanted to check off, but the next one is here today. But they couldn't be better set up. They've got William Stanback back. His numbers have been growing. He's going to be playing alongside Walter Fletcher, and then there's Jeshurun Antwi. So you've got the three-headed monster in the offensive backfield. Now, let's flip over to the Toronto Argonauts. I was talking to defensive coordinator Corey Mace ahead of the game. He used one word to describe how his team is feeling right now: peace. But he also said it's been a while. We want to get playing. They've been sitting for a week. They are anticipating a Great East final. They hosted this game last year, Kate, and he said that given that they're hosting this year, they have had that extra amount of time to heal up and get a player like Andrew Harris back. It's amazing he's here. He's going to be providing veteran experience, likely on the field in a tandem with AJ Ouellette, but also off of the field. And that's no doubt going to help a guy like McLeod Bethel-Thompson, who's starting in just his second CFL playoff game. He wants to prove to not only himself, but the league that he and the Toronto Argonauts belong in the Grey Cup next week. And who is that going to be against? Well, we'll find out a little bit later. And right now, I'm going to send it over to Farhan Lalji, who is in the beautiful Winterpeg right now. Or should I say Winnipeg? I heard it was a winter wonderland.
Well, Claire, it's not so bad right now, actually. -6 is the scheduled temperature, the expected temperature. Could have been a lot worse. Asked Rick Campbell about it yesterday. He says, well, at least there's no mosquitoes right here. And most importantly, there is no wind. We are expecting some light flurries in a couple of hours while the East Final is being played. But as far as this game is concerned, no snow expected in the forecast. They were actually playing in snow last night here. It was the local high school provincial championships. We saw those kids run around and the grounds cleared off the snow today. They've done a very good job of that. As for the players involved, will Rasheed Bailey be involved? I know Zach Caleros was hopeful that he would have his entire starting five as far as the receivers are concerned, but Bailey, dealing with a bit of a knee injury, was a full participant in practice on Thursday. He's listed as a game-time decision in this one. And as far as Caleros and Adam Bighill are concerned, they do believe just the opportunity to practice in these conditions does help them. They know how hard the ground is. They know what the ball is like to throw and catch with, and just whether or not tackling and landing on the turf when it's harder, what that's going to feel like. They do believe that gives them an advantage. As far as the Lions are concerned and Nathan Rourke, he said he's played in cold climates before. This isn't going to faze him. The biggest thing for him is his fingers and toes. Everything else he can deal with. He's using a battery-powered hand warmer, and he's got the layers that he needs. He's comfortable with what he's going to have to do going into this game. And as far as their walkthrough yesterday, many of the Lions, including all of the offensive linemen, were bare-armed. Suk Chung, the former Bomber, who did that when he played here, is trying to do the same thing here as well. They're trying to get into that mindset that nothing else is going to matter as far as weather is concerned. It's a very close group. Both of these teams, exceptional chemistry, and they believe that's going to help them in critical moments as far as this game is concerned. But Cade, for me, look, it's Winnipeg, it's November, it's Canada. I kind of feel like I'm a weatherman. I'm looking for a green screen right over here and a map. I promise I will not put the snow pants on for this game. I might even take the earmuffs off.
You know what would be really impressive, Farhan, if we cut back to you and you were in shorts? Then we know you're a true dedicated CFL reporter. Let's take a look at the all-time playoff records of the 4 teams remaining. Winnipeg with your best winning record at 555. Home teams in the Eastern Final, 32-14. Winnipeg, by the way, 41-19-2 in home playoffs. BC owns an 11-24 record on the road in the postseason. We'll, of course, get back to the Western Final in just a bit, but coming up first today, it is the Eastern Final between the Toronto Argonauts and the Montreal Alouettes. So many huge storylines going into this game. Matt, what are you looking for?
Biggest storyline to me is Andrew Harris back in the lineup. Arguably the best running back in the Canadian Football League over the last decade plus. And to interject him into the lineup at this juncture, to me, is the biggest balancing act that the Toronto Argonauts are going to have to deal with, because A.J. Ouellette has been nothing but outstanding in his absence. And so you get stronger with somebody like that, but you don't, and your biggest concern is not to disrupt the chemistry that you have offensively already. And to me, that's the biggest thing. But to get an Andrew Harris in this lineup, Milt, is huge. Anybody's going to take that opportunity and try to work him in there seamlessly so it doesn't disrupt the offensive flow.
Yeah, getting Harris back, McManus, that's going to be big for these Toronto Argonauts. And we talk about football. Football is a simple game. But I think coaches, and Paul LaPolice is one of them, they try to make it difficult. They spend in 15, 16 hours where if you don't have the best players, it doesn't matter. And when I talked to Ryan Dinwiddie, he broke it down. He said it's about execution. We've played against the Montreal Alouettes. This will be our 4th time. I can't put any other game plan together. It's basically, are our guys going to execute? Are they going to be better than the guys they're going against? And that's what you have to love about CFL football. Yes, there's 9 teams, but when you play teams so many times, you know in the playoffs, the best team is going to win because that's the team that executes. So that's what he says. If we can execute, we win this game. If not, we don't.
Maybe Ryan Dinwiddie's trying to throw you for a little curveball. They're just going to play. It's the same old stuff. Nothing's going to change. They're going to come out with something crazy. I mean, look, these teams have all seen each other so much. And just even in the league in general, guys have know each other's systems, understand what they want to do. The big matchup for me and the biggest thing I'm looking at, and Toronto has point blank said it. They believe they have an advantage with their receiving core against Montreal's DBs. I think we would all agree that that's probably an edge for Toronto in that matchup. Now, the key is, and back to the coaching part of it, is can they protect enough to get to that, get to those matchups outside and in the slot? Because you know Northrup's going to go bring 5, bring 6, pressure you, and if they can't pick up, then all that stuff down the field doesn't matter, as we all know. But that's the key to me. Can this team protect enough to give McLeod Bethel Thompson a chance to get those one-on-one shots?
You guys were fabulous in breaking down the game, but of course we have to welcome in our 4th analyst for today, and that is Paul LaPolice. Once again, Lapo, I'm very happy to report Milt's socks are currently matching. Maddie's pocket square looks like it's perfect in place, and I forget what was wrong with Ches.
It was my square,
Your square. I think it was your hair, Matt. And finally, I've been practicing my voiceovers all week long, so Coach, I really hope you're happy with our performance so far. We need to come up to your level.
Yeah, you know, like the first thing I'm going to take from the panel is, you know, I think the bye-week team, you know, they may have some trick plays. So I think Ryan Dinwiddie's trying to, you know, pull a wool over our eyes a little bit. Let's talk about the defense of the Toronto Argonauts. There's a lot of things right here that aren't great here. 8th in a lot of categories. Those are the bad things they do. But what they do, the best things, are the most important to win football games. And these are it. They don't allow a lot of touchdowns. They force turnovers. Best in the league. They got the first in interceptions, and they're the most efficient pass defense in the Canadian Football League. How do they do that? It's they play a lot of zone coverage, and the best thing this team does is they look at people, right? Watch their DBs. They do a great job watching the quarterback's eyes. They're moving to the left. Trevor's already moved off his spot, right? They do a great job moving horizontally. Trevor thinks he's got a quick throw. I think that's to Winicky right here, but Enoch Mwamba gets his big mug. He gets his big hand in the way, right? As they're trying to make that quick throw on the outside. Here's another one. This is man coverage, but it's off man coverage. Now, why are you going to do that? You're going to give up easy throws. Why? So McFadden can look. He can look at the quarterback and trust that he can get depth. Here's a throw to over here to Lewis. McFadden does a great job. Why? Because he sees it happening. He knows where the quarterback's going for the ball. Here's one of my favorites. Zone on the inside. Say, well, we got to do something against Eugene Lewis. We're going to play man-to-man, plus zone around him. This is a great coverage. Now you have a zone drop plus somebody chasing him man-to-man. You got 4 guys over here with the guy in man coverage. This ball gets tipped, almost intercepted. Trevor's got to understand he can't make decisions like this, try to throw it into 5 guys. Zone coverage down at the goal line. They do it more than anyone else in the league. What do? Here's a 4-by-1 set. You would think the boundary halfback would be over to the field. He isn't. He's covering space. Why? Because they're in zone. They like to play zone down here, right? And what happens when you do? The quarterback tends to hold the ball, can't get his first throw. Here comes the pass rush, right? And that's what they try to do down there. This is what I try to do. Watch this earlier in the season. All right, here's an out cut with a vertical. All right, sometimes these guys jump the underneath route, right? This is one of their practice squad guys who played early in the year, but he's looking at the underneath. Hey, Eugene Lewis, pretty good. He's leading the league. I may cover that guy. Stay back with that. So what Trevor's got to think about a team that's looking is I would be looking in one direction, throwing the other, trying to do anything, double moves and pumps, but he's got to make sure he protects the football for them to have an opportunity to win over here in Toronto today.
All right, great stuff, Coach. Meanwhile, Walter Fletcher coming off that 77-yard rushing performance last weekend. He, along with William Stanback, Joshua Antwi, they make up that 3-pronged attack. The Argos defense going to have their hands full today. Plenty more pregame coming up right after this.
Welcome to the CFL playoffs and the East Division semifinals are coming. Gets it away! Touchdown, Jake Winneke! And the Alouettes playoff route against Hamilton is over. And their overall drought is over 2, winning a playoff game for the first time in 8 years.
We expected to win this game, and we're going to go in next week, and hey, we know it's going to be a dogfight, but they're going to be ready for us, and we're going to be ready for them. See you all in Toronto.
The second straight year at BMO Field, they host the Eastern Final. Didn't quite go according to plan last year. Fans hoping for a different result this time around. A little later on, Winnipeg hosting the Western Final for the second consecutive year, where all eyes will be on Zach Collaros and Nathan Rourke. What stands out the most?
The battle of these two quarterbacks. Nathan Rourke, Zach Collaros.
Looking for another major. Did they hold that in? Yes! Absolutely ridiculous. Collaros, he's going to look for a huge shot. Tedeschi turned around and gets it. Tedeschi's going to take it in for a touchdown. How did he do that?
They don't play directly against each other, but they can decide the outcome of this game.
Well, as promised, a little later on, it will be the Western Final. There he is, Kid Canada Nathan Rourke taking on Zach Collaros and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. By the way, the Lions and Bombers have met in the Western Final 3 times, their most recent being 1985. I remember it well. I was 1 year old. That's right. I was a baby. All right, alongside Matt Dunnigan, and looking at these two quarterbacks, when Nathan Rourke had his tremendous start to the season, I think it was a little bit humbling when when the Bombers came into BC, and then all of a sudden he had arguably his worst game of the season. He only played 3 series in the last game of the year. That one's hard to judge a little bit, but this is going to be a tough go today for the youngster.
No question. You talk about 85. I'll go back to 84. My actually first year starting in the league, I went to Winnipeg in very similar conditions. First year starting, go to Winnipeg on the road in a playoff game, and I didn't have all my faculties. Nathan Rourke is going in the same situation this week, and I look at what he did last week without his mobility. It's pretty impressive because this guy had 39 carries for over 300 yards and 7 touchdowns on the season. Last week, he only had 1 carry early in that football game, 1 for 5, and we saw what he had to do there. He had to work within the pocket and control the game there. He and his offensive system have the ability to do that, and we saw it. And he was phenomenal last week, but it was huge for him getting over it. On the other hand, you got Zach Collaros. Yeah. And Zach Collaros, to me, ever since he's come and became a Winnipeg Blue Bomber, his record speaks for itself, 32-4. He's been phenomenal, and I think he's the most deadly and accurate passer on the move than anybody in the Canadian Football League, and that represents going back to his first game in 2019 on this play, and scrambles all over, and then on the run with people in his face, he throws a dart. Darvin Adams, touchdown, and we've seen it ever since then. So you've got a kid who's got incredible mobility in Nathan Rourke. He's going to have to be a pocket passer, in today's football game. You got Zach Collaros, who's as poised as they come in the pocket. He's going to be on the move. But it's not so much to use the sticks, it's to put pressure on the defense, because Zach Collaros had 6 carries, 49 yards on the year.
Ridiculous.
That's it. 0 touchdowns. So he's deadly when he's outside, and you can't let him get there.
And you know what? You said the numbers speak for himself. Collaros making his 6th playoff start today, a 4-1 record so far. But for Nathan Rourke, in the regular season, 0-2 against the Bombers. But as mentioned, that last game of the season, he only played 3 series. And as we all know, the only game that really matters is today's. Born and raised in Manitoba, Nick Dembski has shown the next generation of football players in this country just how successful homegrown talent can become. Now, while he is currently inspiring young football players, Dembski was once one of them, looking up to superstar players and dreaming of what he could become. Recently, our crew surprised the Bombers receiver with an unforgettable interview from one of his idols.
Winnipeg native Nick Dembski thinks he's about to be interviewed by me, James Duffy.
Just a little bit of news. We'll sit you there. Okay, start.
But I had a scheduling conflict with my Zumba class. So instead, the most valuable Canadian in last year's Grey Cup is about to be surprised by...
With that finger licking, pass rush, we do got a chance.
Michael Irvin, Nick's idol and one of the greatest receivers of all time.
We had to find someone else to do the interview.
That's some catch. Aeneas Williams is thinking, what in the heck do you have to do?
So we found a replacement.
My brother, what's up?
So you're supposed to be here? You sure you're in the right interview?
Hey, I'm in the right interview.
This is the replacement you got for me. Okay, let's do it.
Can put him anywhere. Can run the ball in the backfield as a tailback. Can play him at wide receiver. Can play him at either slot back.
Yeah, I kind of laughed when you said it, but you're not exaggerating.
Hey, Nick, let me say this first, man. Congratulations on all your success, my brother. Congratulations. Nick, I know you put that work in. I heard somewhere that you watch YouTube videos of Jerry Rice and me to learn more about the position.
I always grew up as a running back, so I mean, when I had to learn and switch over to receiver, I mean, obviously greatest of all times. I had to watch him. I'm going to add Chris Carter to that list too. I watched a lot of film of him too. So I mean, just your guys' body control and the way you guys caught the ball and the routes you ran, the big plays you made in big moments. So.
Right, that's great, man, because let me tell you something, Dick. Most guys, and people don't understand this, I mean, you know it, when you're a running back, you sometimes going to receiver. That's a hell of a switch, because now, at running back, you don't have to track the ball as long when you're passing. You know, there's short passes, swing passes, in, out. And receiver, you got to track that ball in there for 30 and 40 yards, and that's why a lot of running backs can't go to receiver. That means you're a talented dude, and especially in this day and age, if you can do more things, you can stay on the field more.
Yes, sir.
The Blue Bombers were the best before the CFL was put on hold, and the Blue Bombers are the best now.
Hey, talk to me, man, because I know you're going for your 3rd championship in a row. I went for 3 in a row. I failed. You know what I mean? I did win 3 in 4 years.
When I read though, yeah.
You see them Super Bowl trophies up there, don't you?
I see them now. I see a lot of trophies over there.
Because you got new teammates, right? And I remember Jimmy Johnson used to say to us, he would make us all stand up. He said, everybody sit down who has a Super Bowl ring, and all the guys would sit down who has one. But there were always new guys on the team that stayed standing up. And Coach would say to us, look around the room. You have yours. What about your teammates here? Have y'all had those talks?
Our coach, he kind of just says, every pregame, just look around the room and look to your left and right, because that's all the motivation you need.
I swear to you, that's the greatest thing Coach can tell you. I just want to wish you the best of luck, my brother. Keep pulling it in. Nick, I'm going to tell you something. Don't let no man stop you. Don't let nobody stop you. Now, I'm promising you, man. I promise on everything I own and my kids. Not a day go by, I don't think about that 3rd one in a row that we let get away. We let it get away on a pass interference by Deion Sanders in the 94 championship game. Deion's covering me, man. I run out and up, and I have him beat so bad, but he's so fast. Nick, let me tell you, I see the ball in the air. And I went through the same thing with him in college, right? I see the ball there, and I'm thinking, oh my God, Oh my God. I said, do I go up now? It'll declare. If I go up, you'll have to jump me. It'll declare pass interference. But I won't get the ball. If I stay down, I can catch this ball and get the touchdown and be the hero.
2nd and 10. At the San Francisco 43. Aikman again will have to throw and does and goes deep. The pass is incomplete.
And he had Dion on that one. The whole Cowboys sideline is looking for a penalty on this one. You see, he gets
and there should be.
They never called that pass interference. Well, no, I didn't make that play, Nick. Now, a day goes by that I don't think about that because I wanted to have those 3 in a row.
But 3 in a row won't happen. Nobody's ever done it. And it won't happen now.
You're writing your history right now, brother. Not many people can write, I won 3 in a row. Don't you let no man stop you from writing well. Good luck.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you for taking the time, too. I appreciate that.
Just having Michael Irvin, you know, saying my name to me, that just means a lot. So, yeah, no, I'll definitely remember that for life.
So Dembski only played 13 games this season, still tied for 3rd in receiving TDs with 10, 17th in receiving yards. We will see how he does in a winter wonderland that is Winnipeg this afternoon. Now, with much more on the receivers, let's head over to one of the all-time greats in Milt Stegall. And I guess we had no one else, so Davis?
I thought Davis was all-time great.
I thought you were talking about me, KB.
I thought you were talking about Davis.
Receivers. We had no more receivers in the house, I'm just saying.
Hey, when they introduced that feature on Dembski, one of his heroes, you thought they were going to start talking about you. And then they cut to Michael Irvin, you got all sad. Hey, tell us about you're going to talk about the BC Lions.
Yes.
Great receiving corps. What do you got, Beagle?
Yes, you talk about the BC Lions and the Winnipeg. We'll eventually talk about that. Yep, 2 best receiving corps in the league. Arguably, no, there's no arguing. These are the 2 best receiving corps. And I talked to Lucky Whitehead, and I said, what makes this receiving corps so great? Unfortunately, he's not playing, but he says the one thing they do is they hold each other accountable. Not accountable in the game, but where it really matters, and that's practice, because you get better in practice. If a guy is slipping in practice, Lucky says, yes, we're going to joke about it, but we're also going to let him know, let's get it together, you know, because we need you as a teammate. They're also each other's biggest cheerleader. When Rhymes had an opportunity to lead the league in receiving, they were cheering for him. When Lucky Whitehead got his 1,000 yards, the first one to run the field was who? Right. Brian Burnham. That's right. So these guys hold each other accountable. Only receivers in the league that have 3 over 1,000 yards, so these guys can make some plays.
They're deep and do it in a bunch of different ways as well. Dalton Schoen is a guy that obviously he's had a phenomenal rookie season. And talking to folks and trying to figure out what he does well, the one thing I noticed, Milt, me and you talked about it. Oh, first of all, a lot of his catches come off scramble. Right. Him and Zach have something special. But what he does best, and will you agree, that hitting the line of scrimmage, hitting the waggle with speed, and he does that as good as anybody I've seen in a long time. And you couple that with the fact that he's a big body guy and he can run. It makes it really difficult. So the question is, how do you guard a guy like that? Because if you play on him and he hits that waggle with such speed, he's probably going to run you over. It's hard to jam him. He's 200 and something pounds. So what they got to do, and 2 of the guys in BC, great in transition and quick, they're halfbacks, TJ Lee and Marcus Sales. So the way that they have to play this, and I believe they will, is stay on top of Dalton Schoen, take the deep balls away, don't get into jump ball situations with them, but make Dalton Schoen, any bigger receiver, make him transition at that 12 to 14 yards, run the intermediate routes, and what can those smaller guys do? Beat them there. So there's an advantage for TJ Lee and Marcus Sales at that 12 and 14. They're playing high, transition, and beat Dalton Schoen in those intermediate routes to the ball, because if they get in a foot race with him and let him get jump balls, that's a disadvantage.
I know someone who played like that. I'm looking at him right now.
And Ryan Phillips as well. Ryan Phillips as well. Kate, what you got?
All right, great stuff, gentlemen. As per usual, as we take a look at the most receiving yards in the divisional final round special here. Eugene Lewis leading the way with Dominique Rhymes at +500, followed by Brian Burnham, Greg Ellingson, and Dalton Schoen. And next on that list was Curly Gittens Jr. It was a great season for the young man. Nominated for Most Outstanding Canadian, he became just the 4th Canadian pass catcher to have 1,000 receiving yards in a season in the last decade. Will that momentum travel into the postseason? Well, Toronto has has not hosted the Eastern Final in back-to-back years since 96-97. Didn't turn out the way they had hoped a year ago, but another shot at punching their ticket to the Grey Cup today. Absolutely thrilled to be joined by Bo Levi Mitchell. And Bo, once again this year, you will be joining us at the Grey Cup in Regina. Now, other than hanging out with us, what are your plans right now going into this off-season?
Oh, just take it one day at a time. I am very excited about the opportunity to hear all teams and hear the pitches on why they think their team has the best chance to win the Cup, because that is ultimately what will make my decision. I will say I am going to be patient. I'm going to keep all my conversations private because, teams all have different quarterbacks that, if they don't sign me, I don't want them to offend those guys. So I will keep all conversations with every team private. But I definitely will be waiting until free agency to make that decision.
All right, well, it was a wonderful moment for sure in BC. Obviously, you'd still like to be playing, but we can't wait to see what the future holds for you. And don't think you're getting off this easy. In Regina, we're going to be grilling you with the hard-hitting questions, so maybe you can speak a little bit more on it at that point. So let's talk about these two games today. We'll begin in the Western Final with the BC Lions taking on the Bombers. And of everything you've watched so far this season, how does this Winnipeg D neutralize Nathan Rourke in the game?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not going to be easy. I will say anything you ever want to do against a great quarterback or any quarterback is try to keep them uncomfortable in the pocket. When I watched film watching Winnipeg beat BC, the one thing I definitely saw was they wanted to send pressure the entire game. So send to Sam from the field, drop your backside D and let Willie get his big hands up there. Send a hammer on the next play, send a hammer from the boundary. Just try to keep his eyes moving side to side so that he cannot get his eyes vertical, which is where Nathan Rourke and those BC Lion receivers have hurt defenses the most this year.
So let's move over now to these Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And Calgary played two great games against this team. I think a lot of people are expecting them to go back to the Grey Cup, maybe be three-time defending champs. But where is this team vulnerable in your opinion?
Well, listen, they're 15-3. They're not very vulnerable in a lot of positions, and when you find out their vulnerabilities, they like to cover those up. What I will say is Winnipeg has had an amazing back end for a lot of years, but that's always been complemented by their amazing pass rush, which has covered up some deficiencies back there. One thing I will say, Winston Rose, they trust him a lot. He's made a lot of great plays this year, but he can be beat down the field. So I believe if they're able to hold up, if they're able to stop that pass rush, no DB can be 100% against this BC Lions receiving corps.
To the Eastern Final, and what, in your opinion, is the biggest storyline going into this game today?
I got to say turnovers. MBT and Trevor have been the two most productive quarterbacks, pushing the ball down the field, taking care of the football. They've done a great job of it this year. But, Ches, you're going to like this. What I will say is both these defenses can create turnovers at an alarming rate. So if you can get Trevor to throw a tip pass over the middle, but the Alouettes defense can possibly get their hands on a deep ball or two, I believe that team will be representing the East in the Grey Cup next week in Regina.
Bo, I have to ask you, out of all the analysts, and myself included, who are you the most excited to see in person in Regina?
Oh, it might be Lapo. I might have to talk about his playbook and see what he's got going. Oh, I mean you, Kate. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Who are you the least excited to hang out with in Regina?
Oh, man, I don't know yet. Probably Dunnigan. He always likes to grab my hand so hard when we have a handshake.
Yeah, he needs that hand, Matt. We need to keep this all safe and together.
I'll be looking for you, Bo.
Bo, we can't wait to see you and for you to be breaking down this 109th Grey Cup. Thanks so much for the time, and we'll see you in a few days.
Yeah, look forward to it, guys.
All right, meanwhile, great news for the Argos. Back from a knee injury, Wynn McManus in the lineup today. He led the Argos with 95 tackles on the season, a huge addition for the double blue defense. Needless to say, the Argos D, though, needs to give a little bit of love here.
They're a feisty bunch.
Garrett Davis immediately moves in and picks up the sack for Toronto. Shane Ray with an exclamation mark for that Argo defense that has been very good.
Deshaun Oakman, 6'9", 290, and can move. That does so much for those outside guys. For Garrett Davis and for Ray to open up.
Time to put together our same-game parlay ticket courtesy of FanDuel. The Toronto Argonauts favored by 3.5 points in this football game. But let's take a look at some player props, Mr. Davis Sanchez.
A lot of chat about Andrew Harris coming back, and of course, A.J. Ouellette, who's done an excellent job at running back. But I think the key to this matchup is going to be Montreal's secondary against Toronto's receivers. I like Markeith Ambles to have a big game today. I think Ambles goes over.
Wow, I'm staying with that theme, Davis. A lot of talk about the ground and pound, but I think when you talk about McLeod Bethel-Thompson, his favorite target this season has been Curly Gittins. And sixth this year in receiving yards in the Canadian Football League, #1 to the Toronto Argonauts. He's got to have a big game. At 61.5, I'm going over.
Eugene Lewis over 73.5. Yes, he'll get there. They throw him the ball. He's averaged 9 attempts a game. Big reason being he is their main guy. Their second guy, Reggie White Jr., is no longer on the roster. He's injured, so they're going to feature Eugene Lewis even more. So he'll go over 73.5.
I can honestly say I think this is the best ticket that you guys have ever put together in the entire CFL season. Let's recap here. Ches, you like Ambles over the 45.5 receiving yards. Matt, you like Curly Gittins Jr. over the 61.5 receiving yards. And Milt, you're taking Eugene Lewis over the 73.5. All three selections going to pay you plus 570. With more on the game, let's get you over to Dwayne Ford.
Thanks, Kate. You know, we often talk about the game of football as being a chess match between coordinators, and I thought that Montreal's offensive coordinator and play caller Anthony Calvillo did a masterful job last week in terms of his moves and counter moves and the way that he used his two running backs, Fletcher and Stanback. The first half of that football game, it was all about attacking the edges. You may remember Paul LaPolice gave a great description of defending the edges, those defensive ends at the line of scrimmage, getting after those guys. Terrific job of that in the first half, which softened up the Hamilton defense last week for runs up the middle as they got into the second half and looked to close out that game. So I want to take a look at 4 plays from last week, 2 from the first half, 2 from the second, to demonstrate what I mean. So here we are in the first half. Take a look. Cedric Wilcott's defensive end, they're going to crack him with the slot back. Pull the guard around, get Walter Fletcher around the edge. This one ends up going for a 33-yard touchdown, mixing things up in terms of how they block the defensive end to attack that edge. A little bit later in the half, Julian Hauser on the other side. Suck him in with the quarterback rolling out. Bring the running back underneath on a variation of a shovel pass. It puts that end in a no-win situation. But then you get to the second half. Look at how Hauser on the left side stays wide. Backside end wide as well, so it's easier to get those guys blocked up. Huge lane up the middle to isolate the pulling tackle on the middle linebacker. Another big gain for Fletcher. Later in the game, they're going to bring Antwi across the formation. Watch how Julian Hauser is fighting on the left to get outside. Malik Carney on the right. When he sees Antwi pass him, he stutter steps because he's afraid that he's been outflanked, that the play is going to go to the outside. He could have made the tackle inside, but he hesitates because of what has gone on in the first half of that football game. So keep an eye again today on how Montreal uses their running backs, mixing things up between outside and inside.
All right, good stuff. Home teams in the Eastern Final 32-14 since 1973. History wasn't on their side a year ago at BMO, but fans hoping today they go home a lot happier. Plenty more coming up after the break.
Much anticipated West semifinal between the Calgary Stampeders and BC Lions. On the BC side of things, we get Nathan Rourke's playoff debut. Rourke hit as he throws to the end zone. Touchdown, BC! Nathan Rourke successful in his first playoff start. Great matchup next Sunday in Winnipeg.
This is what we wanted, right? This is a chance to knock off the dynasty, really, in the CFL. It's going to be in a tough environment, but if we want to win a championship, we got to go through them.
Yeah, easier said than done. Going through the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who we could put the word destiny, I think, in there if they end up winning their 3rd Grey Cup, but a lot of work to be done. Now, when you were coaching the Red Blacks, you got the Bombers right off the top of the season. Not an easy task whatsoever, and especially that defense.
Yeah, week 1 and 2 was our matchup with them, and I just said, you know, I told Willie Jefferson before the game, you are going to be double-teamed every play. We made sure that we're going to get the ball out quickly. We were going to hit him with other people. That's what you have to do to stop this defense a number of ways, right? Watch this. The Sam linebacker coming field, the strong side, and the boundary halfback, what you call a hammer. They're bringing guys off the edges so the back can't help out the defensive end. Linebackers work for width. Jackson Jeffco breaks out, right? Nathan Rourke does not understand that Jackson Jeffco drops out. He drops out to this spot, right? Does his best tight end impression he can, right? Great job. Now, here's what you're going to see a lot. The back over with the tackle, trying to help out on Willie Jefferson. You got another add-in for max protection. Gives the quarterback, Nathan, time to throw the ball on the outside. Right? Again, same picture. This time, let's put the fullback on the left-hand side to help Figueroa. Now, Willie Jefferson gets two people going to hit him. This is a deeper throw by the BC Lions offense. Figueroa can't lunge at him. Willie still makes the play. I think it's a coverage sack. You just can't give that amount of time, right? Now, here's what Richie Hall did a great job in this game. He lined Willie up inside. He put him at the field, what you call the 3 technique. What's he doing that? To get Suk Chung in a mismatch, right? He wreaks havoc on the inside. Why is he inside? Because you can't double him, right? You have to have a whole different call to double him. Here he is again, lined up inside later in the game, and that makes it harder for you to try to figure out where he is. And the hardest part about playing a guy that big and this entire defensive line, when you start trying to say, we'll throw the ball quickly, they all put their hands up and they can knock the ball down. So that's what you have to stop about this guy. Here's the last clip, right? You're going to see starts with an outside move, right? And then he just jumps back inside and beats it. Nathan gets away from this. But for the BC Lions today, they've got to do a great job of running the football, getting the ball out of their hands quick, and moving the launch point to make sure Willie's not a factor. When you come back, see sometimes Beth, our camera person, she's always telling me, oh, you got to be over here, and Kate, go over here. You got to be at the Sports Center desk. You're over there. No, I'm not there. I'm not on the edge. I'm on the inside. I'm in with the panel, right? That's what Richie Hall has to do. He has to move Willie Jefferson around so you don't know where he is.
I'm sorry, did I just lose my job? I feel like I just officially lost my job to Paul Lapointe. Guys, how great is this?
Look at Wade
Miller getting in on the action. Bombers have been incredible at home this season, currently riding a 27-2 run at IG Field dating back to their loss in the 2018 Banjo Bowl. You love to see it. First up, though, the Eastern champs will be crowned at BMO Field, where our Claire Hanna is standing by with Enoch Mwamba.
Enoch, your defensive coordinator, Corey Mace, used the word peace to describe how he is feeling before this game, but how are you feeling as a player?
Extremely focused. We had a great week of practice. Speaking of Corey Mace, I mean, he did a great job with the game plan. I feel extremely confident about it. My teammates do as well. We know it inside and out. We feel very confident.
You're playing your former team. You're also playing a team with 3 running backs. How does that change the challenge of how you're going to take this on?
It's going to be a challenge. This is where we're at. At this stage in the season, every team that's playing right now is going to be good. And so, we're excited for the challenge, and we're looking for it. I hope they hand them the ball, whoever it is back there, 20, 25, 30 times. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. That's the type of game I want to play.
Have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
All right, taking a look at your odds for the 109th Grey Cup matchup. Lowest odds coming in, the Bombers and the Argos. The 2 home teams clearly favored at plus 105. Then the Bombers and the Owls, the Lions, the Argos, and the Lions and the Alouettes. Not a popular pick to be moving on after the Eastern and the Western final. Meanwhile, coming off a performance where he had 14 touches for 80 yards total, William Stanback hoping to run all over the double blue defense, which is certainly easier said than done. Panel picks coming up and the insiders. Well, fans getting set here for the Eastern final. The Argos looking to get back in the Grey Cup for the first time since 2017 when they won in Ottawa. The Alouettes, on the other hand, they haven't been in the championship game since 2010. The man of the people, Mike Pinball Clemens. Now we go to our CFL insiders, Dave Naylor and Farhan Lalji. And Farhan, I'll begin with you. The Bombers, with all of their success, obviously trying to keep everyone together in Winnipeg. And one of those people includes Mike O'Shea. What is the status of his contract currently?
Well, Katie's in the final year of a 1-year deal. This has gone on with Mike O'Shea for the last couple of years. And when you've had the success that O'Shea has had, you've got to be comfortable in that role because ultimately you've got the hammer. And when you're Mike O'Shea, regardless of what flaws exist in this organization, he absolutely covers them. In fact, I'm not sure there is a coach that is more important to his entire franchise than Mike O'Shea is to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as far as the CFL is concerned. You've got players who sign with this team and take less money because they want to be around around Mike O'Shea and the culture that he has set. You've got staff members and others in football ops that want to be around it as well. So ultimately, I don't think there's a huge fear that a deal's not going to get done. In fact, my understanding is there have been a number of veteran players with the Bombers that were also on expiring contracts that have agreed to new deals. Those haven't been registered or announced yet. They won't until the end of the season, but many of those have signed or at least agreed to deals with the understanding that Mike O'Shea is going to be back.
And of course, the process of trying to get your team to the Grey Cup every year begins in late March when the CFL has its combine. Now, that has traditionally been a 2-day event in Toronto, and this week the league announced it is revamping that. It's going to move it to Edmonton for late March, and it is going to be a 5-day event. And this is essentially modeled on the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, the National Football League sponsored college game down there, where they have 5 days of workouts and practices. And in the same case, they're going to have coaches from the CFL actually involved in installing the offenses and coaching position groups. So very much modeled on that same idea and giving teams a full opportunity to evaluate players. Also, they're going to hold a kicking combine in California. In the past, it's been tough to evaluate kickers indoors with the facilities in Canada, and certainly outdoors can be challenging. So a real expansion to the player evaluation process. Also going to be about 100 players at the new revamped CFL combine as opposed to about 50 in the past. Of course, national players and globals will be there.
And we heard from Bo Levi Mitchell a few moments ago, and as he said, he's going to take his time with his decision. We all understand that he's going to be moving on from Calgary, and he made it clear when he left Calgary, the final media availability, that his priority is not just starting, but wanting to go to a winner, and that means a lot of different things, you know, in terms of what that lines up as, including who the offensive coordinator is and their willingness to collaborate, who the head coach is, and just the overall control and leadership that they provide, what the offensive line looks like. All of that is ultimately going to matter, and my understanding is there's going to be a lot of interest in Mitchell. We all seem to understand that Saskatchewan is going to be front and center in that, but there are some teams in the East that will also have an interest. Hamilton has a long-term decision to make on what they're going to do at the quarterback position, and I think they're going to take their time and go through the data and just make a full and thorough decision there. You've also got Toronto. Many people believe that at the end of these playoffs that McLeod Bethel-Thompson may in fact step away from football. Certainly doesn't need this opportunity from a financial standpoint. He's in his mid-30s now, and certainly if they win the Grey Cup, there could be an opportunity for him to do that. And also in Toronto, Bo has got significant relationships with people like Ryan Dinwiddie and other members of the coaching staff. And then what about Ottawa? I do believe that there is a strong tie with Sean Burke and Jeremiah Masoli. I don't think Burke's necessarily going to want to go out and pursue a different quarterback, but depending on who they hire as the head coach, that coach is going to be given some input. So if they've got a strong relationship with Bo and they want to make that commitment and push for him, I think that's going to be considered as well.
And of course, every offseason we see some players that want to see if they can take a shot at the National Football League. And there is a CFL player in a very unique case this year. Jamin Pelly is a massive defensive lineman with the Edmonton Elks. He played at the University of Calgary and petitioned and got early acceptance to be in the supplemental draft for the CFL. He played his rookie season in Edmonton. He will enter the NFL draft this offseason, but will remain contractually obligated to the Edmonton Elks for the 2023 season. Wouldn't be able to try the NFL till 2024. It's a unique case. A guy has said because he did come out of school as an undergraduate to the CFL. So there is a guy who will be in Edmonton next season, but his future very much we'll see as we look at this process. That I say there have been players in the CFL who were in the NFL draft after they were already playing in the CFL. It's happened a few times over the last couple decades. Jamin Pelly will be the latest. Kate, back to you.
And the Insiders, of course, will be with us in Regina with plenty more updates. It is time now for the panel picks. Milt, the home teams in the Eastern Final have fared pretty well, 32-14 since 1973. Who are you picking in this game?
A.J. Ouellette and Andrew Harris will win this game. Andrew Harris in the last 3 postseasons, 615 yards and 3 touchdowns, and A.J. Ouellette has really can't come on. So I think those two guys will help these Toronto Argos win the game.
Oh, and what about the second one? What do you think about that one?
We're just doing the first one, aren't we?
Just that first one?
Yeah.
Oh, this is pretty easy. Yeah, then I'm going with home team. Rest is critical, as far as I'm concerned. And the Toronto Argonauts are rested. They get Wynton McManus back. They get Andrew Harris back. Those are 2 all-stars coming back to the lineup on a rest. I'm going to Argos all day long.
Oh, you know what? McLeod Bethel-Thompson, they talked about it was one of the most amazing things they've ever seen, Andrew Harris being able to return. He's superhuman. How could you possibly go against that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Goodness.
Oh,
I'll tell you how.
yes, let's go, Owls. Let's go. Here we go.
You look so much better, Chad.
Where did you get that?
So much better.
Did the Alouettes send you their mascot? Touche's his name?
Touche.
No,
Touche.
that's at his house. He keeps that in his
Touche.
basement.
Yeah, he just wear that around all the time.
You look so much better, Chaz. Thank you.
Ches, can you wear that the rest of the broadcast? It's very entertaining.
I am not Ches.
I am Touche. Only refer to me as Touche. Well, merci beaucoup, Alouettes. Thank you for providing this. It has been absolutely delightful. Let's get back to BMO Field now. Our Claire Hanna standing by with Gino Lewis.
Gino, all season you guys have talked about the adversity you faced. You start 2-6. You've got the coaching change. How did you get to this point here?
Just grinding, man. Just never giving up. Just always staying together as a team and just fighting each and every day, each and every game, and each and every practice. And that's all we just want to give ourselves an opportunity.
I know that win last week meant so much to Montreal, but also your team. What's it going to take today against Toronto to get to the Grey Cup?
Hey, man, it's going to take everything. We got to be disciplined on offense, defense, and special teams. Can't have too many turnovers, not too many flags, and we just got to execute our plan. And we do that, man, the sky's the limit.
Thanks, Gino.
All right, thank you.
Touche. Right, Ches?
All day.
All day Touche. Coming up, we wrap up our pregame as the panel breaks down their key matchups for the Eastern Final between the Argos and the Alouettes. Of course, we'll see Tyler Hubbard, the 109th Grey Cup halftime show. Can't wait for that. But first, for the second straight year, BMO Field hosting the Eastern Conference Final. A year ago was the end of the road for the Argos. Now another shot, and of course for the Montreal Alouettes. It would put them in the championship game for the first time in 12 years. We are down to 4 teams, 2 off to Regina, and we will be there too. Cannot wait, but let us first go with the key matchups in this game. Milt, what do you got?
I'm going with the return of the greatest Canadian running back in CFL history, Andrew Harris. And if he can impact this game, I don't know how the Montreal Alouettes win. I alluded to earlier how he's dominated the last 3 postseasons in 6 games. 615 yards and 3 touchdowns along with A.J. Ouellette. If those guys get going, Montreal Alouettes don't have a chance.
I like it, Milt. You know, last year's final, when he was playing in a different uniform, he wasn't expected to play. He had 23 catches or touches, 136 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he's like superhuman, right? I like that. But both these teams are really close. I think offensively, defensively, it's a toss-up. In fact, 2 of these games, Cote missed a 21-yarder, and Toronto wins. Beatty missed a 47-yarder, but it was the Rouge that won it for him, that one. So it's going to come down to special teams to me and getting those points when they need them, and typically last-second field goals. So, Davis, I'm going right there.
2009 Grey Cup, quick story. I'm in the tunnel getting ready to come out. And
you were dressed for that game?
You walk up to me, Matt, and you say, you walk up to me and you whisper to me, you're working at TSN, you say, by the way, they're coming at you today. Okay, well, and I locked them down, but I got something for you. Wesley Sutton, Najee Murray, the Toronto Argonauts are coming after you guys today. They think there's an edge against the 2 halfbacks in Montreal. Go get them, lock them down. It's your time.
The student becomes the teacher. I love it, and I love Final Sunday. Of course, we got this game first a little later on. We got the Winnipeg Blue Bombers the BC Lions, but first it is the Montreal Alouettes. It is the Toronto Argonauts. We will get you to BMO Field for kickoff right after this.
Thank you, Kate. What a great day here for the second straight year. The Eastern Road to the Grey Cup goes through BMO Field here in Toronto. Last year, the Argos could not get by Hamilton. Now it's the Montreal Alouettes standing in the way. Thank you for joining us. What a day. We're going to find out who goes to the Grey Cup, and what a matchup in the running game between these two teams, both now with Andrew Harris back, having a dual threat.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that this is unfolded for both of these teams. Basically, in Toronto, Andrew Harris goes down. A.J. Ouellette comes into the lineup. He's so productive that when Harris comes back, they decide to go with the two-headed monster. Curious to see how they're going to employ both these guys today to maximize what they get out of them. Montreal experienced this. We saw a little bit of it last week, and they did a fantastic job getting the most out of two very different running backs, whether they were on the field together or separately or in some combination with Jeshurun Antwi. Both backs were able to have an impact for Danny Machoch's team.
First appearance in an Eastern final since 2012 for the Alouettes, when they were the favorites against the Argos and lost to them in Montreal. Ryan Dinwiddie, second year as head coach of the Argos, and into the Eastern final. Two first-place finishes in the East, but looking to take that next step. Saw Danny Machocha earlier. Regardless of what happens, he says he is not coaching the Alouettes next season. He is their general manager too, took over 4 games into this season. The Argos won the toss. They have deferred. So Montreal will get the ball first. Boris Beattie to kick off, the ex-Alouette, with Chandler Worthy and a Darius Pickett back. The 2022 Eastern Final is underway, and it's in the hands of the ex-Argo. Chandler Worthy let go by Toronto before the start of this season. On comes Trevor Harris. The last time he played in an Eastern Final, he was spectacular. 6 touchdown passes for the Ottawa Redblacks in 2018.
And Trevor Harris, a guy who has a couple of Grey Cup rings already, but earned those in Toronto and in Ottawa as a backup quarterback. Certainly looking for an opportunity, for at least a chance to get one as a starter himself here.
One of very few to have at least 4,000 yards passing in a season with 4 different teams. He was 3rd in passing yardage this year. From the 38, 1st and 10, throwing right away, completing it to the rookie, Tyson Philpott, who gets it up across the 45 as we take a look at that Alouette starting offense.
Yeah, and mentioned 2012. The significance of these two teams last meeting in the playoffs. Christian Matt, the lone Alouette who was there, drafted back in 2010. And of course, Gino Lewis will play a big part in the outcome of this football game. The East Division's most outstanding player this season. Dominant receiver. Keep an eye as well as Cole Speaker draws into the lineup in place of Hergy Mayala in that receiving corps.
The Alouettes started quickly last week against Hamilton. A 5-play drive for a touchdown. It's 2nd and 1. And it's William Stanback cruising his way for a first down and more, getting up across the 50, close to midfield, a gain of 5.
We'll take a look at this Toronto Argonaut defense. Jagarrett Davis has been to the Grey Cup every year in the league. He's looking to take the Toronto Argonauts along with him here in 2022. Wynton McManus, a big get back in that lineup, returning from injury at the weak side linebacker spot. Of course, we'll keep an eye on the ball hawking corner, Jamal Peters for the Argos.
First possession, first game of this division final doubleheader. Montreal trying to get moving there with Philpott again, but not much. He is shut down just around the line of scrimmage. This is what Trevor Harris did last week. Mentioned the quick start. And Gino Lewis was a part of that. And then that touchdown by Jake Winicki getting involved.
Yeah, this was a game that, to me, the Montreal Alouettes kind of won in the 1st and 4th quarters. Dominant start, put Hamilton in a hole that was tough to climb out of, and then as the Tiger Cats started pressing, got you within a possession, Montreal used that power run game in the 4th quarter to close things out.
2nd and 10, no gain by Philpott before. Throwing, knocked away, Jamal Peters, who led the Canadian Football League in interceptions, makes a nice defensive play there. After that first Alouette possession, they'll be forced to punt it away.
Yeah, intrigued to see that match up from time to time today. when Gino Lewis lines up in the boundary side between he and Jamal Peters. And see guys who physically match up very well in terms of that height, length, etc. Gino Lewis, typically such a dominant jump ball guy. Jamal Peters may be the antidote to that for Toronto.
That first possession ends close to midfield as Joseph Zima is forced to punt it away with Brandon Banks back for it. And he is chased back and lets it hop, and into the end zone it goes as he will take a knee, or will he? Now he's looking to bring it up. Brandon Banks. Nice little play there against the Alouette cover team, and he makes something of it. What a play by Banks to get it up to the 34 when it looked like he was going to give up the Rouge. Alouettes. They had to punt. McLeod Bethel Thompson in for the Argos' first possession in a scoreless tie. Second straight year, McLeod Bethel Thompson is starting in a division final in his 5th year. This was his most productive one in terms of passing yardage. He led the CFL with over 4,700 yards passing.
Yeah, and McLeod Bethel Thompson, we talked to him a little bit about this season, a season in which he seemed to establish himself after having challenges as to who would be the Argos starting quarterback in years past. But he suggested that he didn't impress himself this year. Feels he can do much more.
Throwing in first down and completing it too. That one is to Curly Gittens, lining up the boundary slot to start this game. And the top Canadian receiver in yardage in 2022.
As we take a look at this Argos starting offense, first-year guard Ryan Hunter joins this group after a few years south of the border, North Bay, Ontario native. And as mentioned, Curly Gittens. This is the guy through whom the Argos passing offense runs. He's the key.
Their leading receiver up to the 47, swinging it out to A.J. Ouellette. And he's got some steam after that catch. Lots of room. And taken down finally by Nafis Lyon inside the 20, down near the 15. Looking to see how the Argos use their backs with Andrew Harris in again. But it's Ouellette to start, and a big play to start this game.
Yeah, both backs on the field together. Harris in the backfield. Ouellette moves out into the slot. Get him that quick hitter and a little bit of space. Nice move back to the inside right there. A good job blocking out on the perimeter by the receivers. Created a nice lane there for Ouellette.
He really stepped up after Harris got hurt back in week 8 against Hamilton. He's been the #1 running back since. And a look into the end zone. Oh, that close to a touchdown for the Argos. The intended receiver was Cam Phillips, just off the fingertips, as Toronto's looking to strike quickly.
Yeah, Phillips lines up in the slot here. He's going to end up working towards that back corner of the end zone. Has to adjust. You'll see him alter his route a little bit as this ball's in the air. He's got to flatten it off. Does a pretty good job tracking it, but just off the fingertips at the end.
That close after the big play set up by A.J. Ouellette. So 2nd and 10. They're at the Montreal 17. Argos' first possession of this Eastern Final. Winner goes to the Grey Cup next week in Saskatchewan, as this one is blown dead with the snap of the football.
Time count violation. Toronto number 4. This is a 5-yard penalty. We'll replay second down.
Taking a look at the Alouette defense. Of course, that front anchored as always by the veteran Almondo Sewell. Tyrese Beverett, the former Hamilton Tiger Cat, had a huge play in the 4th quarter to help the Owls close out that East semifinal. Mike Jones, a monster last week as well, with 2 picks.
9 minutes, 58 seconds, 9:58.
Veteran referee Andre Proulx working this Eastern Final today. They get the clock straightened out and push the Argos 5 yards further back for the time count. 2nd and 15 now. Last year, Ryan Dinwiddie's team took a 12-0 lead in the first half against the Ticats. They got close, but they couldn't cash in. They had to settle for field goals. Big second down, stepping up. Down near the 5, it is dropped. by Brandon Banks. A little discussion. Or whether he actually caught the football. And they leave it spotted down. Let's have another look at this.
Keep an eye here. This one, see if this one deflected off his foot. Definitely off the foot, but did it avoid the ground entirely?
Danny Machocha throws his challenge flag. They want to have another look at this, but it did appear to go off his foot and not hit the turf when it looked like Brandon Banks had dropped the ball.
I caught it in my legs. I caught it like that. It never hit the ground. They said never hit the ground. I caught my leg.
Montreal is challenging the previous play. They believe the pass was incomplete. The play will be reviewed.
Certainly that last angle would be inconclusive.
It looks like a catch.
I mean, to me, it's still tough to say because the ball was right down at the bottom of the screen. That's our best look, and that one.
Does it touch the turf there? It's that second part. The first one looked like it went off the foot, but does it touch the ground when it's on its way back down here?
It looks like he gets underneath it. I mean, there may be some debate as to whether there was a bit of a trap that happens with the football here, just the nose of the ball. So here it's off the heels as he clicks it back up.
Right
hand is underneath it.
There. Did it touch?
Yeah, I think he's okay. I wasn't convinced at first, but I think that this completion will stand, particularly as they would require conclusive evidence to turn it over.
That's the thing. They ruled it a catch. Had it been ruled otherwise, you'd be faced with the same situation, probably. Hard to overturn it. And this would give a 1st and goal to the Argos. They've reviewed, and here's their decision.
Upon review by the command center, the ruling on the field stands. It was a catch, and it will be 1st down. So Montreal is charged a timeout, and they're out of challenge.
So the veteran Speedy B with a different way to catch a football, and a big catch it is ruled to be 1st and goal down at the 6. Andrew Harris, touchdown Toronto. He's back. That is the first touch for Andrew Harris since coming back from injury. It's also the first time he has scored a touchdown in double blue. He did not find the end zone in his first 8 games with Toronto.
And in relatively easily here. Nice cut there to make Sewell miss at the line of scrimmage. Andrew Harris looking like he hasn't missed a beat.
1 carry, 1 touchdown. And the point after from Boris Beatty. And the Argos have the early lead on their first possession. They're welcoming back 33. Andrew Harris. It's playoff time. Great start by the Argos in this game. 6 plays, 79 yards, and we talked about the dual threat. Well, it started with a great special teams play here by Brandon Banks to give him better field position.
Yeah, neat play by Banks, kind of a heads-up situation as he sucked in the cover team. But yeah, the two-headed monster in the backfield, they made use of both of them. Ouellette with the big catch and run. There you saw the shoestring catch from Brandon Banks. And Andrew Harris punches it in, serving notice that the Sheriff's back in town.
Andrew Harris has mentioned his first touchdown as an Argonaut and his first touch, period, since August. Chandler Worthy, ex-Argo, left side, finds some room. Worthy used to be be a returner for Toronto, and with an injury to Mario Alford, the Alouettes were glad to pick him up. And speaking of getting someone back from injury, William Stanback, a few weeks earlier after he was hurt, an opening night in Calgary. And Stanback has looked steadily better as time has gone on. He had scored a touchdown early in this game. Looked like he was going into the end zone again when he suffered a serious ankle injury, and he was out 4 months, Dwayne.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us thought, much like with Andrew Harris, that would be the end of his 2022 season. But both these veteran running backs driven to get back on the field for the playoff run.
Walter Fletcher is in this game. Harris is throwing, though. A deep ball. It's down for Tyson Philpott. And a beautiful catch from the rookie from the University of Calgary. And quickly, Montreal moves down the field into the Argo zone.
Yeah, Philpott got in behind Jamal Peters over on that side of the field. Pulling a Gino going straight down the rail. Rising up over the Argo defensive back to make a terrific catch for a big chunky yardage.
Philpott had 459 yards receiving and a couple of touchdowns in the regular season. A big catch there. Down inside the 25, it is Walter Fletcher. Breaks a tackle and busts out to the left to pick up a couple of yards. Fletcher with a big game last week in the East Semi against Hamilton, where he had a 33-yard touchdown run, and if he was on the field, chances were he was getting the ball.
Yeah, got the ball. In reality, about 3/4 of the time, basically, that he was even on the field. He had such a significant impact on that football game. You would think that he played more snaps than he actually did, but really only on the field for 17 snaps in that ballgame.
And now Jeshurun Antwi is in the game at running back as well, along with Stanback. Pressure's coming. Harris escapes, throws to his right, completes it to Keon Julian Grant. His first game catch in this Eastern Final game. It's inside the 20. And it'll set up a second down, or excuse me, a third down and short now. Field goal situation coming up here for David Cote.
No secret that I've been a fan of these young Canadian receivers for the Montreal Alouettes this season. We saw the deep ball to Tyson Philpott, and here it's Keon Julian Grant, another second-generation CFLer.
This spot on the field must bring back bad memories for David Cote. Had a chance to win it in week 2 from 21 yards out and missed it left. This from 25 to get the Alouettes on the board in the Eastern Final. Spotted by Zima, and perfect right down the middle as he splits the uprights, and the Alouettes answer back with a field goal after that impressive opening drive by the Argos, capped off by Andrew Harris. Welcome him back with a touchdown. It was back in mid-August, week 8, when Andrew Harris, who had more carries than anyone in the CFL at that point, suffered an injury, a torn pec muscle, and there was reason to think that he would not be back this season, maybe at all in his career. With more, we welcome Claire Hanna. Claire?
Well, Rod, the fact that he's playing in this game and already has a touchdown is remarkable, considering it usually takes 6 months to return from a torn pec injury. He did that in half the time, but he said that part of the reason he could do that is experience. He actually tore his other pec muscle in 2011, made it back in 3.5 months, so he knew he could do it this time. He told me his legs are fresh, that he feels explosive, that this is going to be a rebirth for him, but he has dealt with some distractions this week. He has the birth of his second son, Axton Harris. And he said that while there were some distractions, you know, naturally, he was able to go to all the practices, but he didn't get as much sleep as he normally anticipated. And that's because he was sleeping in hospital beds. He was doing things that were a little different, out of his keel. But one of the things he said is that he thrives in chaos. He doesn't know what next year's going to look like, if he'll be back, but he's going to rock it till the wheels fall off today.
And Claire, that's a happier reason to be in a hospital than the other ones he had earlier this year. Congratulations and the birth of Axton. And a good start for him in his return to Double Blue.
Just hope Andrew kept the ball from his touchdown for his newborn son.
And Mum Danica doing well with Axton. As Andrew's back on the field, a 2nd and 7 now after the Ouellette carry. Bethel Thompson flushed out. Down near the sideline to Brandon Banks again as they confer. And they say no catch this time.
A terrific effort from both Bethel Thompson and Brandon Banks on the play, but rolling to his left. Sort of watch that torque from the upper body. I think pulled that one towards the sidelines, pulled the throw towards the sidelines a little more than Macbeth wanted. Banks goes and gets it.
Well, he's 1 for 2 now in contested catches. He did get the ruling in his favor on the previous drive that got them down to a 1st and goal and later a touchdown. John Haggerty out for his punt. The first one for the Aussie. The leading punter in the Canadian Football League in the regular season. And it's a shorter one as a flag comes out too for heading out of bounds, not far enough down the field. BMO Field in Toronto. It's the CFL Eastern Final. The Argos lead at 7-3. Claude Bethel Thompson was upset on the sideline. We'll tell you about that in a moment. Williams Standback and picks up 3. Now this is the play before that would have given the Argos a first down for Brandon Banks.
Yeah.
Ruled no catch.
Yeah, diving effort from Banks right along the sidelines. Bethel Thompson, we think, was lobbying or suggesting after the fact that the Argos should have challenged that call. He's getting a little heated on the sidelines. Got to manage those emotions like in a big game.
2nd and long. Harris slips, but he steps up and he shuffles it. It looked like he did it over the line of scrimmage. The ball is out. The Argos have it. Deshaun Amos. Bizarre play that turned out to be. It looked like Harris had tried to throw the football after he had crossed the line of scrimmage and hit the turf, and the Argos picked it up. There are flags down.
The location of the flag would certainly indicate strong possibility that the call is
illegal forward pass. Montreal number 7. That penalty is declined. The ruling in the field was a catch and a fumble. Recovered by Toronto. It will be first down Toronto.
Well, the Argos catch a break here. Harris with the ad-lib. It's over the line, and I think may have caught Julian Grant ready for it, but with Jamal Peters right on his back, that ball gets knocked out. Harris over the line of scrimmage, but I'll tell you, this is quite a break for the Argos because we didn't get a chance to talk about the John Haggerty punt.
Right.
Short punt that was also out of bounds that was a real killer for the Argos in terms of field position, but their defense erases that by creating the turnover.
They netted only 4 yards from that Haggerty punt because of the penalty. Setting up a screen. Andrew Harris has some room inside the 30. 25 down near the 20. Taken down by Adarius Pickett. And he has just a couple of touches, but he is looking already like the Andrew Harris we've come to know. A gain of 30 yards.
Yeah, so much for easing Andrew Harris back into the lineup. The touchdown run already in this nicely executed screen here. Watch Ryan Hunter out in front. He picks up the free safety to Quap. Nice cut back there by Harris on Pickett to pick up a few extra yards at the tail end of this.
We've seen big plays from both Harris and A.J. Ouellette, who's in there to protect now. But Wesley Sutton got by him. Bethel Thompson got it away to Banks. Well, it counts. First down, Toronto. Argos back on the move.
A nice escape there from McLeod. Bethel Thompson coming from the very left side of your screen. You're going to see the halfback Wesley Sutton coming on the blitz. Big part of Montreal's blitz package. Ouellette just a little late coming out to get him. So he's able to pressure the Argo quarterback. Bethel Thompson buys a little time sliding to his right before getting that one out to Speedy B on the sideline.
Down to the 12, 2nd and 1. Ouellette, the ball carrier, first down. Trying to pull his way a little bit further. down closer to the 5, and it will be another 1st and goal coming up for the Argonauts.
A big response here from the Argos on the heels of that turnover. Ouellette pounding that one inside. See the Argos veteran free agent acquisitions. Andrew Harris, Brandon Banks on the sidelines. The league's 2019 most outstanding Canadian and most outstanding player, respectively.
Ouellette. Touchdown. You talked about that two-headed monster in the Argo backfield. Is their presence ever being felt today? Harris had the first touchdown. Ouellette has the second. And the Argos have a bigger lead.
Well, you've got to love the symmetry. Ouellette gets a touchdown set up by a big play from Harris on the screen. After Harris got a touchdown after the big play from Ouellette on the catch and run. I'd say these guys are proven to be a pretty good tandem in the lineup here together.
Boris Beatty for his second point after, with Haggerty on the hold. And it drifts to the right, but it's enough. And the lead is now 11 points. A.J. Ouellette. A flag coming out late, too. These players head off the field. But Toronto's in command, and we talked to Ryan Dinwiddie earlier this week, Wayne, about one.
After the play, objectionable conduct, Montreal number 6. This is a misconduct foul. 10-yard penalty will be applied on the kickoff. 10.
A Darius Pickett flag there, but talking to Ryan Dinwiddie, and something that he wanted to be different this time around compared to last year. Cash in when you get the chances. They got deep several times against Hamilton and came away with field goals and only a 12-0 lead at the half.
Yeah, there were a couple of times where, you know, certainly I found myself wondering if they might have wanted to go for it in third down situations. They elected not to, choosing to take the points. You never know how it's going to work out. It did come back to haunt them, but as you said, so far in this year's version of the game, the Eastern Final, the Argos leaving no doubt their 2 running backs, each crossing the goal line here, the opening quarter.
3 possessions, 2 of them touchdowns, and some points off a turnover as well for Toronto. As Montreal is in an early hole. A.J. Ouellette, the feature back, and all the time that Harris was out. And a much better way to start for Ryan Dinwiddie as he tries to get this team to the Grey Cup. Chandler Worthy, one of the top returners in the CFL this season. As Beatty will kick to him in a 14-3 game. As Worthy takes it at the 5. Keeps going as he breaks to the left. And he gets it up across the 30. For the second straight year, the East nominee for MOP is an Alouette, Gino Lewis. What a great year he had as you look at the CFL rankings since 2019.
Yeah, just an indication of how important he has become over the course of his career with the Montreal Alouettes. Started off as the young guy in that receiving corps, and now he's the undisputed leader.
Walter Fletcher is the ball carrier. He gets it up to 36, but Gino Lewis last week against Hamilton was targeted 8 times. He had 7 catches for 98 yards, including his longest of 33. And that's after a season when he was 3rd in the CFL in receiving yards and 2nd in receptions.
Yeah, and we talk all the time about Gino Lewis and those jump balls, the catches down the sidelines and so on, but make no mistake, this is a versatile receiver, a guy who can run all the routes, make all the tough catches.
2nd and 8. Harris gets rid of it, and he completes it to Cole Speaker. who 2 weeks ago here in a game that meant nothing in the standings caught a touchdown pass from Dominic Davis, and Speaker is in, as Dwayne mentioned, because of the illness to Herji Mayala.
Yeah, Speaker is an interesting situation for a couple of reasons. First of all, you look at the Montreal roster. They elected when Reggie White got injured, they replaced White with another Canadian starter, Tyson Philpott, drawing into the lineup. That gives them the flexibility now when a Canadian in Mayala goes down, you can replace him with an American receiver. But further on Speaker, he looked terrific in that regular season finale, and I think that really earned the opportunity for him here today.
From the Montreal 47, on the ground to stand back, but Enoch Mwamba, their veteran in the middle, says nothing doing there as the Argos defense limits him to only 2 yards. It's quarter time at BMO Field, and the Argos have the lead. Through the first quarter of the Eastern Final. Dwayne talked about the double threat for the Argos and Andrew Harris and AJ Ouellette. That's been the big story. They each have a touchdown in this 14-3 lead as Toronto's in control now, and not again.
Well,
what are you doing?
Now listen, last year I just want to say I was very insensitive because my Western Mustangs beat your Queens Gales in the Yates Cup, the Ontario Championship, and I wore this purple sweatshirt. I didn't want to be so insensitive this year. I want to ask if you prefer the purple or the black.
Seriously? We got a game going on, and this is my focus. This is the choice. let me see. You want AJ Ouellette, you want Andrew Harris. We're not talking about hoodies here.
The way this game has gone, I don't think you could go wrong with either of those two choices. Harris and Ouellette both having an early impact for the Toronto Argonauts.
They both have had big plays. Catch and lots of yards after the catch. A little shuffle inside with flags coming out to Walter Fletcher, starting the second quarter by getting it up to midfield. We'll see what the penalties are about.
Offside. Defense. 5-yard penalty. We're going to replay second down.
I believe it was the initial alignment right there at the bottom of the line. You can see a little further ahead than his teammates. Hendricks,
99
defensive tackle, lining up on out on the edge that time.
So they move it to the 54 of the Alouettes. And Wynton McManus, who's just back in this game after missing the final 4 games of the regular season. He was injured in Calgary back on October the 1st. And it looks like a right arm injury for McManus, one of the top defensive players in the Canadian Football League this season.
Yeah, Wynton McManus had an absolute monster season this year, and a guy who should have very much been in the discussion as most outstanding defensive player league-wide this season. You see his numbers, and that again in an abbreviated season.
And heading off now and favoring that, what looks to be that right hand. A key part of that Argo defense. And despite missing the final month of the season, still their leading tackler, Corey Mace, the defensive coordinator for the Argos. Jack Cassar in now in his second year out of Carleton University.
A couple of substitutions happening in this package. Is Jonathan Jones in? I think the direct substitution for McManus.
William Stanback's the ball carrier now on a second and short, with the penalty getting that second down over, and needed to get to the Argo 53, and does that. A first down as the drive continues for the Alouettes early in the second quarter.
Yeah, we're seeing a little more early from William Stanback here today. You look back at last week's game, Walter Fletcher got a lot of the touches early. We talked in the pregame show about Montreal attacking the perimeter early on. 8 of Stanback's 10 carries came in the fourth quarter last week.
Lost yardage this time for Stanback as the Argos had it read as he was moving to his left. Stanback said had progressively gotten the ball more and looked more like himself late in the season, but good job by the Argo defense there.
Yeah, and they get a little bit of a cue which way the play is going and that they're going to run it. As the Alouettes, a team without a true fullback, they bring in an extra offensive lineman. Philippe Gagnon comes in. Pierre-Olivier Lestage moves from guard to become the blocking back, so to speak. They're running the ball to his side, and the Argos see that key.
Stopped there by the strong side linebacker, Chris Edwards. Trevor Harris gets it away to Jake Winicky. Tries to break a tackle and picks up a few more yards as he gets it up around the 50, but not nearly enough. Still about 7 yards shy of a first down as the punting unit will come on now, and Joseph Zima.
Yeah, good effort there from Jake Winicky, who had a nice game in the Eastern semifinal rather, including a touchdown catch in that ball game, but just with a long way to go. Broke a couple of tackles but couldn't get all the way, so it'll bring out Zima and the punt team.
Sean Amos stretching things out, remaining down. Gets a little attention there as the Argos are getting the ball back, and as mentioned earlier, on their 3 possessions, 2 have resulted in touchdowns. Brandon Banks had a couple of catches, including one that went off his foot. That was an important catch too, challenged by Montreal, but ruled a catch. It's led to the first touchdown. Back with Javon Leake for the punt return too, and limping off now is Amos, the field defensive halfback for the Argos. Brandon Banks in his first year with the Argos after so many great years with a Hamilton Tiger Cats. His best game in double blue actually came in Hamilton on Labor Day Monday. 80 yards receiving, a couple of touchdowns as well. He won't forget that day, I'm sure. Back now as it goes the other way for Leake, who takes it, gets to the 20, and about the 27 before he is taken down. Rookie Zach Lindley on the special teams tackle there. Speedy B. Couple of plays so far this East Final, looking to get back to the Grey Cup for a 3rd straight year. His greatest year 3 years ago with Hamilton, most outstanding player, over 1,500 yards receiving. And now Brandon Banks finding a home with the rival Argonauts, and that, not to mention the big play on special teams he had earlier, Dwayne.
Yeah, this was a really neat kind of heads-up play by a veteran guy, as you saw him sort of suck in the coverage team and open up that wide side of the field for the return. A couple of tough catches along the sidelines. Maybe one easy one that he made tough, but it set up the first Argos touchdown.
Taking the handoff and then giving it on the sweep to Curly Gittens. Had a catch earlier and has a carry that's up to around the 35. But you know, of the many so motivated to get back to the Grey Cup, Brandon Banks on the losing side with Hamilton last year to Winnipeg, and then in 2019, the previous season, and the heartbreak of 2014 against Calgary as well. Looking for a Grey Cup ring, looking to get back to the game, and albeit with a different team now. I don't know how Ticats fans would feel about that. But for Banks, that's the one thing missing from a stellar career.
An interesting approach when you consider those 2 moves in particular that the Argos made during free agency. The signings of Andrew Harris, most outstanding Canadian in the league in 2019, a couple years removed from that. Brandon Banks, the league's most outstanding player in 2019. Again, coming off a little bit of a down year for him, but the Toronto Argonauts in a situation where they were a team, finished in first place in their division last year, and kind of looking for a push to get over the top, get to the big game, bring in some guys that have a little bit of history of playoff success, and enter Brandon Banks and Andrew Harris, who have both played prominently here today.
And you see the injury, Wesley Sutton in on the tackle, and then Philip Blake coming in and making contact with the helmet as Sutton is still getting attention.
Yeah, a bit of a mismatch there in terms of weight between defensive back Sutton. Big offensive lineman Philip Blake. Blake doing a nice job at tackle for the Argos this season. Bumped out to play that left tackle spot after some injuries set in along the Argos offensive line. Has been an interior guy through much of his Canadian Football League career.
And number 45 for the Alouettes, Kenneth Durden, first year at a Youngstown State, is already on the field to sub in for the injured Wesley Sutton.
Bear in mind, injuries have been an issue at defensive halfback. You heard Davis Sanchez talk about the defensive halfback spot and how that might be something the Argos would go after in the passing game a little bit. And Greg Reed, one of the Alouettes' top defensive backs, has been out all year. And Najee Murray was in and out of the lineup with injuries. Raheem Wilson came over from Calgary during the year. He got hurt late in the season. So you're seeing Kenneth Durden get an opportunity in a big moment here for Montreal.
You add to that the changes they've had on corner mid-season, bringing in Nafis Lyon in the boundary corner. Mike Jones in the field side this year. Did a couple of picks last week. So throwing there, Gittens again has it, and more with Lyon trying to haul him down. With another newcomer, Keyshawn Bieria, who's getting into it afterwards. The first down, Argos.
Yeah, just a quick hitter. They just needed a short gain. See him drive Najee Murray off the line of scrimmage and then just hook it up. Got the yardage he needed, just turned to his quarterback.
So Gittens again. Couple of catches for 26 yards. First down up at the 45. Play fake, then off the left to Marquise Ambles. Ambles with his first catch in this Eastern Final. Former Calgary Stampeder, and getting another first down at midfield for Toronto.
Yeah, Marquise Ambles, another guy who's really had an opportunity to sort of show his versatility this year with the Toronto Argonauts. Guy that they like to use in different ways, find some different means of putting the ball in his hands.
And had his best season this year of his four. 72 catches, 737 yards, and 5 touchdowns for Toronto. Midfield, first down, off to the left again, to Gittens again. Yardage after the catch for Curly Gittens, who gets close to another 10 yards. It'll be second and short, probably about a yard away.
And there you see where Curly Gittens' 2022 season stands historically among Canadian receivers in Toronto Argonaut history. Paul Masadi, 94 and 95. Couple of big years for the Acadia University product.
Oh, Masadi, great receiver for a long time for the Argos. Wide open left again. Tavares Daniels, who can walk home.
Total bust by the Alouette defense.
Touchdown Toronto. The easiest way you're going to see it. There was nobody near him.
Tavares Daniels walks out wide from the formation. You take a look at, looks like one Alouette defender, Beverett, may have identified that he's there, but nobody goes with him.
On a second and short play, Chad Kelly, the quarterback, who will execute that short yardage play, and instead of running, they catch the Alouette defense napping. And Chad Kelly, the backup QB, throws a touchdown pass in the Eastern Final to cap off a 5-play, 82-yard drive in under 3 minutes as the Argos are really pouring it on. Struggled to find the end zone a year ago in the East Final. No such problem right now. And a 21-3 lead. Tavares Daniels firing up the crowd here at BMO Field in Toronto as the Argos increase their lead to 18 points. 3 touchdowns in 4 possessions for Toronto. Daniels wide open on that 2nd and short for Toronto, and there was no Alouette defender near him. So the double blue in control on the kickoff by Beatty, and slipping. What else can go wrong for the Alouettes as Chandler Worthy slips on the turf? The ball rolls into the end zone and Worthy is hurt.
Worthy reacted like he might have twisted his knee as he tried to adjust to the flight of that ball. They saw that right leg. Watch the right leg here as he tries to settle.
A close friend of McLeod Bethel Thompson's from their days together with the Argos, and Worthy getting attention down the outside line. So another point on the board for Toronto. 22 now. And it's in the hands of Tyson Philpott on that first down from Trevor Harris.
It'll be interesting to watch Montreal now as they find themselves in a little bit of a hole, quite the opposite from where they were last week. I mean, this is a team that likes the short passing game, quite frankly. A team that, looking at some numbers this week, their buddy Marshall Ferguson, that they throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage more than any team in the league in terms of those swing passes, hitch screens, and so on, and let their guys make plays after the catch.
Wide open, Eugene Lewis, big first down midfield. And I was just going to say, there's a name we've had no reason to mention. That is the first catch for Geno Lewis on the day.
Yeah, and Geno starts off in the slot on this one before working into familiar territory. Along that sideline, he gets Philpott clearing out in front of him, creating a little bit of space for him to work. We'll see if Montreal starts to become a little bit more aggressive in terms of pushing the ball down the field as they try to get back in this one before halftime.
In Argo territory, and that one right at Shaq Richardson as he knifed it through. It'll be 2nd down and 10 coming up. It's a dangerous one for Harris there. Mentioning Lewis, that was a 31-yard gain on his only catch.
See this one thrown into a little bit of traffic. It's kind of a fake hitch screen look, and we saw Jake Winicki. We've seen him make catches off that look a couple of times in recent weeks.
Trevor Harris trying to lead the Alouettes back. Oh, and that one is caught too down at the 35, and suddenly we're seeing more of Eugene Lewis. A couple of catches on this drive, and another first down. Just outside, about the 36 of Toronto.
Yeah, Lewis this time lines up on the outside, but off the line of scrimmage, so he can use that waggle a little bit. This time it's Speaker clearing things out. Lewis coming underneath.
Stand back and Antwi in the backfield. Staying in to protect. Deep ball over the middle. Touchdown, Montreal. Tyson Philpott is having a great afternoon. And talk about an important strike right there. With them trailing by 18. Harris to Philpott. A playoff TD for the rookie to get them a little bit closer.
And you'll see how decisive Trevor Harris was in terms of where he was going with the football. We'll take a look at the replay so you can see the route after. A fantastic route run by Tyson Philpott on that one to beat the defender to the inside.
David Cote with a point after try to make it a 2-score game. Will make it within 11 again, as he does. Tyson Philpott. The Philpott twins drafted in the first round in 2022. Touchdown, Montreal. Tyson Philpott First playoff touchdown, and a big one it is too, with the Alouettes. Not much going right for them, but they had a 5-play 85-yard drive, and Trevor Harris hit him 36-yarder. So they talk things over now and gets the Alouettes back into this Eastern final.
Well, and a great response at a critical time for the Montreal Alouettes. And here you'll see Phil Potty's the middle receiver. The key for him is getting the DB to turn his hips to the outside with that fake outside, and then he breaks back to the post. It's a nice move out. DB Mechie turns his hips to the outside. As a receiver, you know that's when you've got him beat.
So we'll see how the Argos respond. They pretty much had their way on offense in this game. Javon Leake on the return. Across the 30, jumps over a tackler, keeps going. Good return there for Leake, up around the 45 for McLeod Bethel Thompson, and some good field position for them to work with. As said, they've had 4 possessions and 3 have resulted in touchdowns.
The Argos enjoying some success with their kickoff return unit in recent weeks. Seemed to start the season's penultimate week. That first place deciding game in Montreal.
Running back is Andrew Harris, who has the ball. He cuts back, finds some room, heading back to the right before he is taken down by Mike Moore up closer to midfield, and that'll set up a 2nd and short for the Argos.
We'll see if the Argos get back to feeding those 2 running backs, Harris and Ouellette. Guys who seem to be driving their offense so far in this ball game.
That touchdown he had earlier, his first in 343 days. Western final, Winnipeg hosting Saskatchewan last year. And he was coming off injury for that one. He's been through this before when people have doubted whether or not he could play. This is what he had to say about his motivation to get back for this Eastern final.
My mindset was, you know, I'm just going to rock it till the wheels fall off. And even now, I mean, there's still some risks that I'm taking coming back so early. But, you know, I want to, you know, basically sell out for this team and sacrifice my body, put on the line to get back to that cup. And, you know, that's the ultimate goal. That's what I came here to do. And, you know, I want to stick through my word.
Completed to Tavares Daniels. His last catch went for a touchdown, and that one goes for a big first down inside the 25. But yeah, it was a surprise to many for Andrew Harris to be back in that West final last year. And he was coming off a knee injury, and many wondered if he was going to play. In 23 carries, 136 yards, and a touchdown against the Riders. And another Grey Cup ultimately back-to-back for the Blue Bombers.
Yeah, there's no question. You look at Andrew Harris's history going back to his time in BC. This is a big game player. He's had some of his brightest moments in playoffs.
Complete. Marquis Thambles. Another first down inside the Montreal 15.
The Argos not missing a beat after giving up that touchdown. Offense comes roaring back. Marquis Thambles, as you see right here, coming out of the slot, gets in behind the nickel linebacker in front of the free safety. Well-timed pass by McLeod Bethel Thompson.
Andrew Harris back in now. Montreal's defense has had no answer for this offense. On the toss to Harris inside the 10, down near the 5. And close to another first down for the Toronto Argonauts.
And I'll bring up with Andrew Harris something that we talked about regarding William Stanback coming back into the lineup late in the season. I mean, you're talking about guys who usually have a lot of mileage on their bodies by this point in the season, but I mean, defending Andrew Harris with fresh legs, you can see the challenges for Montreal.
A gain of 7 on that. It's a 2nd and 3. Deep in Montreal territory, leading by 11.
plenty coming up at the half. Paul Police once again directing traffic here. He's talking about the pass rush and also those challenges we've seen. I think you're talking about the two backs there, Milt Stiegel.
Yes, sir.
And Touche. Poor Touche.
Sad bird in the back.
Poor Touche.
Sad bird.
Sad bird.
Sad bird.
And Kate Milton, as you know, often likes to refer to the BWB, the bad weather back. The importance of this time of year, although the weather here, field might be a little bit slick, but it's been pretty good. And the Argos, that offense has been cashing in, trying to do it again. End zone look, no, just a little bit too far for Tavares Daniels, who wanted a call. Thinking the Alouette defender slowed him down a little bit.
Yeah, single receiver out here. And it did look to me initially watching that at live speed like he may have been impeded a little bit as he broke to the inside. Lyon got hands on the Argonaut receiver.
And we do have a challenge flag. Ryan Dinwiddie throwing it out to argue this very point. With Nafis Lyon, let's put a little bit of a drag on him.
Challenging the previous play, they believe there was defensive pass interference on their receiver. The play will be reviewed.
So life out on the island. It's a boundary side corner. Nafis Lyon came over from Edmonton in mid-season, taking over that spot. You saw it this time, again watching at the top of the screen as Daniels beats him across his face to the inside.
And that close to another touchdown for Daniels. Had one earlier, thrown by Chad Kelly on a second down and short. What and all the makings of a short yardage running play, and they fooled the Montreal defense. Tavares Daniels, best year remains the teammate of Bo Levi Mitchell in Calgary in 2016 when he was the rookie of the year. And a productive season, is second best in terms of receiving yardage in 2022 with Toronto. So will they rule this PI? Here's Andre Proulx.
After review by the command center, the ruling on the field stands. It will be an incomplete pass. It will be third down. Toronto's charge a timeout, and they're out of challenge.
There was certainly a bit of contact over there, but nothing convincing enough.
But the offense stays out. It is third down, 3 yards away from a first and goal. It's at the Montreal 6. The Argos settled for field goals a lot a year ago. They don't want to do that today. Or maybe they do.
A lot of theatrics.
Trying to draw them offside.
Yeah.
And even though it is settling for 3, given the circumstances and what they've been able to do for the entire day up until now, field goal doesn't look as bad as it did a year ago when they just couldn't cash in. Morris Beattie was 0 for 2 in Montreal.
Time count violation against Toronto number 4 is declined. The clock will start on the snap.
He didn't make a field goal the last time these two teams met in Montreal, the last meaningful game. They met at the end of the season the next week too. But Beattie's field goal try of 47 yards was hit so well that even though he missed, Chandler Worthy caught it back at the dead ball line, and that single point gave Toronto the victory and clinched first place in the East. So Beattie now to add to the lead. From 13 yards out. No problem there for Boris Beattie. Well, Yes, it is. It's our last time working together, and it's been great. But I'll get melancholy about that a little bit later on. But what an interesting season it's been. But you always manage to keep yourself busy, regardless of the time of year. William Stanback. They fake to him. They give it to Jake Winicky. Trevor Harris to Winicky again. A gain of 11 and a first down Montreal with the score now 24-10. Alouettes 2 touchdowns behind in what has been a real Toronto onslaught in offense.
Yeah, you think back to last week and how the Montreal Alouettes came out of the gate like a house on fire, putting the Hamilton Tiger Cats in a big hole early on. And the reversal of fortunes they're facing here today.
William Stanback across midfield. His best carry of the day. He had 66 yards rushing last week against the Ticats on 10 carries. Picks up 5 there.
Well, 2:16 remaining here in the first half. Plenty of time, particularly given the field position, for Montreal to get down, put some more points on the board, close that gap a little bit before they go in for halftime.
On a 2nd and 5 for Trevor Harris. Completes it again. It's Cole Speaker, his 2nd catch. And another first down as this Alouette offense waking up. And these last 2 possessions, last time went down for a Tyson Philpott touchdown, and starting to threaten again inside the Argo 30.
Yeah, we're seeing Trevor Harris get all his receivers involved here after a quiet start to this ball game. This time Cole Speaker making just his 2nd start of the season. The first, once again, came in the regular season finale between these 2 teams.
Gain of 25. Escaping the rush to his right. Down again and caught again by Speaker. Back-to-back catches, and a big one that is for another Montreal first down.
Yeah, I love the focus here by Speaker. You see him come from left to right on your screen. He's running right into a big hit. Gets jolted, but pops right back up. His focus never wavering from that football.
Takes the hit from Shaq Richardson. On first down, Chris Edwards coming in, takes him down. Hendricks is there too, and a loss pushing Montreal outside the 20.
Well, big play from Chris Edwards, who'd been a healthy scratch the last few weeks of the regular season. You'll see Edwards coming off the edge here. Linebackers an unblocked man. Not sure if they intentionally left him free, in which case they should have been throwing hard, or if they should have kept the receiver in on him.
2nd and goal now. They mark it at the 17. Harris facing more heat and is taken down again. Dwayne Hendricks. This defensive front for Toronto rising up at a big moment to force the Alouettes into a field goal situation.
Yeah, tightening up in a hurry after the Alouettes had marched down the field on them. First Edwards, now Hendricks, coming from the right side of that defensive line, right side of your picture.
David Cote 1 for 1, a 25-yarder in the first quarter. This one, he put down by Joseph Zima at the 30. They get them back within 11 again. Answering the Argo field goal with one of their own. 2 for 2 is Cote. A 24-13 game now with 15 seconds until halftime. So while the Alouettes may be discouraged by an inability generally to stop this Toronto offense, their own offense has certainly been able to move the ball down the field.
And here you get a look at the back-to-back sacks. Edwards leading the charge on the first one. A little bit of help from Hendricks. 99 wants to go get one of his own. One play later. The big defensive tackle brings down the Alouette quarterback.
Two of them talking over those plays. Bethel Thompson, deep look to the right. A little bit too far for Cam Phillips with Mike Jones there every step of the way. So took a shot with just seconds to go until halftime. And a lot has gone well for the Double Blue offensively in this first half.
Yeah, no letting up. You'll see Phillips knows he's going deep, using that waggle, approaching the line of scrimmage to get ahead of steam. Just run past the defender. Good separation, but he and Bethel Thompson unable to make the connection.
Just his fourth incompletion of the afternoon. Bethel Thompson 11 for 15, 193 yards and a touchdown pass. 10 seconds. Just a three-man rush. Another deep ball. Going for it. Oh, so close for Daniels. Had a shot at it there. And with 2 seconds on the clock, could have had time to get 3 more on the board.
You see Daniels lay out for that one. Got his hands underneath it, but couldn't pull it in.
So the Argos certainly not sitting idly by and just taking a knee, content with the lead they have until halftime. A couple of deep balls, that close that time. And Daniels is slow to get up.
Yeah, the Argos second leading receiver shaken up on the landing there. Getting a little extra attention.
The Argos had a 12-point lead heading to the dressing room at halftime against Hamilton 1 year ago. The Ticats came back and won at 27-19. But as we've mentioned a couple of times, the big lament for Toronto last year was an inability to score touchdowns, and they have 3 on the board now. The winner of this game to take on the winner of Part 2 division final doubleheader in Winnipeg, the Bombers and BC Lions. At the half, Kate, Milt, Ches, Maddie, Paul Lapo's there too to talk about what we have seen in the first 30 minutes, and he's a part of the story, isn't he? The surprise return of Andrew Harris after a long injury layoff, and I don't think anybody thought he'd be back. He even wondered if he would be, but has a touchdown in this game. Danny Machocha, Noel Thorpe. Adjustments at halftime, I would think, for that Alouette defense. And a beautiful look at BMO Field and the shore of Lake Ontario, host of the Grey Cup in 2016. And back-to-back years hosting the Eastern Final.
And there, Danny Machocha, general manager and head coach for now of the Montreal Alouettes. You mentioned earlier that he has stated unequivocally that he will not be coaching next season.
And he had to kind of gave him a chance to say otherwise, but he made that clear. He is not coaching next year, and he's just enjoying this. As last time, we talked about it last week in that playoff game, that was his first taste of playoff action in the CFL since 2008, when his then Edmonton Eskimos lost in Montreal to the Alouettes and Anthony Calvillo. But this is started slowly, 2-6 in their first 8, but they picked it up. Strong second half of the season, a 7-3 record to finish up. And that included, by the way, a win in Winnipeg in overtime, the only team to beat the Bombers at IG Field this year. They'd love the chance to beat the Bombers again, I'm sure, but they got some work to do. Or BC Lions.
I was going to say
not declaring anything there. They just want to get to the game. BC will have a thing or two to say about that later today against Winnipeg. But right now, first half is done, and Andrew Harris and the Toronto Argonauts, impressive, especially on offense, taking an 11-point lead to the dressing room as we go back to the studios in Cape Burness.
And back alongside David Davis Sanchez, Matt Dunnigan, Milt Stiegel. The Argos currently up by 11 in this football game. As Rod had mentioned, too, they were up by 12 at halftime a year ago against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And we all know what happened then. We'll see if they can hang on to the lead this time around. Milt, we just saw him. Andrew Harris comes back into this Argos lineup. And we were wondering, how would this work? Because A.J. Ouellette had really established himself as the starting running back. The two of them looking just fine together.
Yeah, Ryan Dinwiddie basically said it was going to be 50-50. Unless one of them got hot, it was going to be 50-50. In this first half, both of them are hot. I mean, we have a great performance by this Toronto Argonaut offense in this first half, but you have to start with those two running backs. And they show how powerful, how valuable they are, not only running the ball, but catching the ball out of the backfield. Andrew Harris, we know what he's done over his career, but also A.J. Ouellette. Both of those guys are doing a fantastic job. They're sitting at 115 yards and 2 touchdowns from scrimmage, and I guarantee you they're going to keep utilizing them in this second half. They're great weapons, and they seem to get along well. That goes a long way when you have a teammate who you get along well with. So kudos to those guys. Kudos for Ryan Dinwiddie for utilizing those guys, and it's going to be difficult to stop them in the second half.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything less from a veteran like Andrew Harris to compliment his running back and just the team in general and to raise them up just with his presence in the locker room. But I tell you what, the Toronto Argonauts are, and it's a game of inches oftentimes, and we saw in the first half, I thought a group of plays that really could have gone different ways. Speedy B here on the sidelines is ruled and incomplete. You got MBT wanting him to challenge it, getting a little pistol match and shoving match with Mike Miller, his offensive coordinator on the sidelines, and then here Haggerty shanks one from 14 yards, and it's like, oh my goodness, Toronto's falling apart here. Trevor Harris makes a blunder, a legal forward pass. It's caught, fumbled, and that sequence of events right there easily could against Toronto. Toronto looked like they were about to implode there on a shank punt, a little ruckus on the sidelines, and then they come up with a big defensive play or one that, you can question Trevor Harris throwing an illegal forward pass, and they come up with a catch fumble. And then you see right there towards the end of the half, you got a post pattern that's missed, and then you got a deep ball that's dropped. And to me, Trevor Harris is catching fire. This is going to be a heck of a second half, but Toronto is very close to falling apart there in the first half.
Yeah, no question. And you said it, Trevor Harris is catching fire, and it seems like he got something there towards the end. If they want to come back, though, they can't have the mistakes of Montreal in their back end. You saw, several times in the first half where guys just wide open. And Trevor was pretty confident coming into this game on this matchup. But right here is Kenneth Durden there. Najee Murray's at the top of the screen. He's looking over the sideline for the call from Northrop. He doesn't get it till late. By the time he looks back, he doesn't see DeVarius Daniels up top. So he's looking, Najee Murray's looking to the sideline. He's looking for the call. And as he's looking to the sideline and getting the call, what looked like kind of late, he looks back, and now the receivers outflanked him. He didn't see him there. I mean, that's just obviously unacceptable. But more importantly than that, they've got to figure out a way to get off the field by making some plays. Like I said, Macbeth was really comfortable in the conversation of that match with the wide receivers. He felt really good against Montreal's DBs. It's kind of come to fruition.
You know that sideline fight when Paul LaPolice was my offensive coordinator? I had to beat him up a couple of times.
Oh, you guys did that?
Man.
Oh, we got to get some video. You know what? Let's go to
couple of times.
Lapo, is this true information? And who won is my question.
Who's the MVP of the league? Come on, let's go. He didn't complain.
Obviously. Meanwhile, we were wondering how the Montreal pass rush would be, and so far the Argonauts handling it quite well.
Yeah, trying to figure out what they were going to do after you saw what Montreal did last week. They had to handle it on first down. You had to handle it on second down. They did a really good job of combining runs with pressure packages, and you'll see what we call kills in the run game. Basically, you're going to see a pressure on 1st and 10 on an inside zone play. And what you do is you build some kills. You're going to kill the blitz. And what that means is you're going to block, get a quick throw, recognize it. They don't cover down well enough, create enough space for A.J. here. So really good scheme by them, making sure they have the blitz handled when it happens on first down. Here's one on second down, all right? They do a really good job now. They're trying to do a zone blitz. A.J. Ouellette's trying to get back to it, right? He misses the block. That's why I would have thought the ball should have gone to the inside. It doesn't go to the inside, but McLeod is so good at recognizing what's happening on the outside. he's able to get the ball outside to Banks on a big play. And I guess I would say this as a coach, it's hard to see guys watching, you know, the challenges and everything. It's hard. Sometimes you don't get the angles. Sometimes the guys upstairs don't. So the players can't, you know, talk to Ryan Dimwitty and tell him, you know, hey, oh, I got to, you know, you got to challenge, you get challenged. Because if Montreal has their challenge, then they can, there's too many things going on at the end of the game to use that challenge early for just a complete.
And as you were saying, too, it's timing. Like, it's the speed of getting those highlights back. You got to see the replay. You don't want to be wasting a challenge, especially in a game like this. But obviously, exactly, some tough decisions to make. And by the way, coming up after the break, we will be talking about the Western Final between the BC Lions. Nathan Rourke making his second playoff start, taking on the Bombers. That's next. Fans at IG Field have had years of watching their team win. The Bombers are currently riding a 27-2 run at Winnipeg, dating back to a loss in the 2018 Banjo Bowl. Can they get another one today in Winnipeg, where, by the way, it is currently snowing, but it's CFL playoff football. We would expect nothing less. So when we look at these two quarterbacks, one, we have Zach Collaros, who's a proven winner. He's 4-1 as a starter in the postseason, making his 6th start. And we know that he's rested a lot over the last few weeks. On the flip side, we have Nathan Rourke, who's coming off his first playoff start, and we know that he is not at 100%. Ches, there's no doubt that this has to be the storyline of the game.
It is, and I want to see how Nathan reacts to, you know, a week of taking a pounding on that leg. It's obviously, you know, it would have impacted this week. Is he back healthy, or is he better than last week? Well, we'll see. But moving on from that, just get to the matchup in the game. I think it's key for this. If you're looking at the BC defense, I think it's key. They have to pressure Winnipeg. They have to get after them. I mean, there's talking to John Bowman, a defensive line coach, he just said we have nothing to lose at this point in time. We got to be aggressive. We got to get after it. I just expect this team to be aggressive. I expect them to challenge Winnipeg, and that's the only way to get out of there with a win.
Yeah, I think Winnipeg at home in these conditions, like they went week 5 to BC and jumped out on them 21-0 in the first quarter. I think Winnipeg has got to come out with a big start, and BC's got to combat that. In fact, I talked about it last week, guys. 13 and 18 games they scored first. They won 11 of those games, BC Lions did, in the regular season. And, you know, to me, that's a little overkill. Hey, Mill, I can tell you,
Daisy Dukes.
It is imperative for these teams both to get off a good start for the outcome of this football.
Confidence is the most important trait, in my opinion, of being successful. Nathan Rourke, when he played, he tore up the league, but one team he didn't play well against was the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And I know the last time he played a quarter, but he still didn't play well. So is that sitting in the back of his head where he needs to come out and have a good start so he can build up that confidence? If he can do that, his confidence is a higher level, even though he's not 100%, they have an opportunity to win this game.
Bill, you never went out in a short sleeve shirt and shorts, did you? Not a chance.
I mean, if I show off these arms, that's a big distraction, so I couldn't do that.
Goodness, I really let into that one. Much more coming up from BMO Field right after this. Ridiculous. Looking forward to hearing from Jordan Davis at the Grey Cup halftime. Stats fairly even between the Argos and the Alouettes at half, but the Argos winning the rushing yards and also those 2 QB sacks at the end of the quarter. Here's Claire Hanna standing by with Andrew Harris.
Well, Andrew, you told me you wanted to rock it till your wheels came off. You get your first touchdown as an Argo in the first of the game. How'd that feel?
Felt amazing. I mean, the O-line did a hell of a job. Basically got to walk in there. So, you know, shout out to AJ for getting us down there, and it was nice to be able to cap that off for my first 6 with Argos. Yeah.
It feels like the field is tilted. You guys have 3 touchdowns in this first half. What's working so well on offense?
We just got to stay with it. I mean, their offense is heating up a little bit, so we got to try to get points in every drive. I mean, and every drive with a kick with points in it. So for us, we just got to keep our foot in their neck and keep tuning out the clock.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Harris and the Argos currently up by 11, 2 quarters away from a Grey Cup berth. Back to BMO Field with Rod Smith and Dwayne Ford right after this.
Halftime, BMO Field in Toronto of the Eastern Final with the Argos leading by 11. Here's Claire Hanna now with Montreal linebacker Adarius Pickett.
Adarius, you guys are just down by 11. What was the message at half?
We just got to come out and execute. We got to play our game. Right now, we playing them. We got a couple lapses on defense, let up a couple screens, but we just got to come out and be us. Offense, they put up scored a touchdown. Second half is us. We got to come out and dominate.
How do you slow down their offense, specifically their run game?
Just, they really ain't ran the ball that much. They really, a couple of screen plays, I was explosive. And at the end of the day, everybody just do their job for real. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Andrew Harris, 4 carries, 25 yards, and a touchdown. But he did more damage, as Adarius Pickett talked about, in a short pass for 30 yards. Same with A.J. Ouellette. 2 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown for him as well. And Wayne, 4 possessions the Argos have scored on out of 5 in that first half.
Yeah, and, you know, I mean, it sounds so simplistic to say, but obviously to get back in this football game, Montreal needs to make some stops, and a big part of that, as Adarius Pickett touched on, is taking away those big plays where the Argos have been able to get yardage in chunks from relatively short passes.
You see Chandler Worthy, who was injured in the first half, looking for a kick that ended up just going over his head and rolling into the end zone because he slipped on the turf. He seems fine. So good for the Alouettes as they will get the ball to start this second half. Underway again here at BMO Field. A shorter kick by Boris Beatty, taken by Worthy at the 30. And he gets up to the 45. Trevor Harris, 14 of 16 for 225 yards and a touchdown in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, you can typically bank on Trevor Harris throwing the ball for a high percentage, high completion rate. The challenge for the Alouettes in this one, though, is they don't necessarily have a lot to show for that, certainly in terms of points. He's hit Tyson Philpott deep a couple of times. Be interesting to see if that's something they go back to. He was able to find Eugene Lewis as well on some intermediate stuff in terms of moving the ball down the field.
So they faked a stand back, completed to Lewis. Trevor Harris getting another completion there. Trevor Harris's numbers in the CFL playoffs over the course of history are extremely impressive. Most passing yards per start, in fact, ahead of, you see Danny Barrett's name and Michael Riley. 361.8 yards on average. And he had a game for Ottawa 4 years ago in that Eastern Final when he had only 3 incompletions. Threw for over 360 yards and 6 touchdowns for the Red Blacks. Stand back to the left. Williams, stand back, big run. Inside the 20, could be gone. How about that? Williams, stand back, is back in the end zone. And finally, the one to knock him down was his offensive lineman. He kept his feet. And the Alouettes, with the start they needed in this second half, stand back 52 yards for the touchdown.
Well, we've talked as William Stanback has come back into this Montreal lineup late in the season that sort of week by week you see a little more of the William Stanback that we've become accustomed to seeing over the last couple of years. And I think we just got the full package with that run. William Stanback getting out in the open field. Great burst. Terrific block along the way, by the rookie Tyson Philpott once he got to the second level.
Within a 5-point lead, they'll see if they can make it 3. Going for 2. Wide open in the end zone is Tyson Philpott. So add 2 more on the board, and suddenly this is a 3-point game. At one point, the Argos had led by 18. Now just leading by a field goal. Quick strike Alouettes to start this third quarter.
Well, getting points on the board before the end of the first half, knowing they were getting the ball to start the second half. Callender mashes things down to seal the edge. Philpott gets the block at second level. It's back to attacking those edges. Remember where they had that success early against Hamilton last week. And that's where they find the home run. here against Toronto a week later.
The East Division's most outstanding player last year, the leading rusher in the Canadian Football League, who was knocked out of action in week 1. And here's the 2-point try afterwards to a wide open Tyson Philpott.
That is opened up nicely. Philpott getting in behind coverage. Easy one there.
Going out a fight, yo. And that's a fact. Best believe that. We're going to keep fighting till the shit is over with. We're going to see who come out on top. Let's go.
We talked to him a couple of days ago. As much as he's been a star in the CFL, this is different with the chance to get to the biggest stage, the Grey Cup. The Alouettes winning a playoff game last week for the first time in 8 years. And on special teams, Javon Leake on the return up to the 30. So Andrew Harris, first time he touched the ball in this game, back from injury. He ended up finding the end zone, and then he had this very productive play later on in the quarter.
Yeah, this set up the screen. Nicely executed, but Andrew Harris, for a guy who missed the back half of the season, looks to be in fine form. For Stanback, at least had a few regular season tune-ups before the playoffs. Harris thrown right into the fire, but ready to roll.
A.J. Ouellette in there. McLeod, Bethel Thompson throwing, and right away, Tavares Daniels. He's been a favorite target in this game so far. Caught a touchdown, nearly had another one, and a big first down as the Argos, down to a 3-point lead, respond quickly.
Yeah, a little double move down the sideline. Out and up. Caught the defensive back, Sutton. Sort of coming downhill to cover that out as he makes the turn. That fake hitch to Gittins, pulling another defender down to the line of scrimmage, so there's absolutely no help.
3 catches, 108 yards already. Daniels off to the right for Gittins. A shorter pass around the 35. Setting up a second down.
Well, the Argos offense, we saw it in the first half. After giving up a touchdown to Montreal, big response from the double blue offense, just unwavered.
Over 500 yards net offense combined by these teams. Off to the right to Gittins again. Finding his way, trying to get to first down yardage, not quite, about 2 yards shy. Gets as far as the Montreal 29. Tyrese Beverett, who had a big game for that Alouette defense last week against Hamilton.
Gittins will get them close enough that the Argos have sent Chad Kelly and the short yardage team out on the field to go after. This one looks to be right around 1 yard that they need to get for the first down.
And remember the last time they were in this situation, expecting a short yardage run by Kelly. Instead, threw it to Tavares Daniels, who is wide open down the left side for the touchdown. 3rd and 1, Montreal 29. Kelly goes right, keeps it. Mike Moore got him in behind before the first down. See where they spot the football. This will be close.
Yeah, Kelly's going to move laterally to his right here before he gets north-south. Spinning forward on the tackle. Just depends on the spot.
They bring the sticks out. And they will measure. And this should be close. They got it. First down, Toronto. But not by much. Bethel Thompson back on. Quite the afternoon, 14-19, 2:43 and a touchdown. Faking the handoff to Ouellette. Looking deep into the end zone, and the intended receiver is Brandon Banks, who wants a call. No flags out. Nafis Lyon, the boundary corner in the coverage there for the Alouettes.
This has been a bit of a story in the Argos passing game. You look at the season that Brandon Banks has had. The Argos, as a team, completed 66% of their passes this season, but only 49% of their attempts to Brandon Banks. There's just much discussion that he and McLeod Bethel Thompson never really found their groove together.
2nd and 10 at the 28. Pressure from Moore on the outside, getting it away to Banks. Keeping the feet in, and they discuss this one and say no catch. He's had about 3 receptions. A couple of them denied that he continues to argue
Rolling
about.
on the field is an incomplete pass. 3rd down.
And he doesn't like it. In the first half, he had one off his foot that they ruled after a challenge to be a catch, and then one they said was no catch, causing a stir that they didn't challenge it.
And you'll see this one's pretty close along the sideline. Wow.
Is that toe on the white, the left?
Yeah, I think if he were barefoot here, you would probably see that his left pinky, I think, is actually touching the sideline. I think this is the right call.
So it leads to a field goal try for Boris Beatty from 35 yards. And straight down the middle. The Argos answer with a field goal. Brandon Banks has had some close calls. This is the latest one. Ruled no catch, leading to 3 more points instead of a chance at 7 for Toronto. Williams stand back inside, Walter Fletcher outside. That tandem of running backs did great work for the Alouettes last week against Hamilton. With more, let's go to Claire Hanna.
Yeah, and Rod, a few times this week, Danny Machocha has brought up the former running back duo of Mike Pringle and Tom Haskins. They helped Montreal reach a Grey Cup back in the year 2000, and he said that he compares Standback and Fletcher to them. Here's the thing, Pringle, he was north-south. He could get better with each carry of the ball. Then for Haskins, he was dynamic. You could run, catch. You could line him up with a linebacker. He'd get the job done. And so right now, it's like Fletcher is kind of like Haskins. Pringle is like Standback. And here's the better thing. Joshua Antwi, well, last week he didn't even get a single carry, but he was blocking guys left, right, and center. So right now they've got 3 options, and all of them are selfless. They don't care how many times they get the ball. They just want to win this game.
Claire, it's a great comparison, and Danny Machocha would know. In the hands of Standback, who goes down quickly there. He had that big run for a touchdown to start this second half, but Machocha was with the Alouettes back in the days of Pringle, who's the leading rusher in the history of the Canadian Football League. And Thomas Haskins, I think, was an underrated player for his skill set.
Yeah, you look at those two guys. Everybody, of course, knows Pringle and how dominant he was. Danny Machocha, the Alouettes running back coach of the era. Thomas Haskins, to me, is one of those guys who quietly changed the game a little bit because they kind of created a position for him, that hybrid running back, slot back.
2nd and 9, complete to Gino Lewis. It's been a quieter day for him as a helmet comes off. Coming in is Royce Mechie as Lewis loses his helmet. The East nominee for the most outstanding player, and what a year he's had.
Yeah, lone receiver out there. The right side of the formation. Just working towards the middle. You see as he gets wrapped up. Mechie just comes in to help out. Appeared to lead with his shoulder.
Near midfield and a first down, and the 4th catch of the day for Lewis. Play fake. Harris runs out of time again. The Argos sack him again. Big shot open. Robbie Smith in there. And down goes Harris for a loss of 3.
Yeah, looked as Trevor Harris was trying to work back to the left side here. You see him look right. Tries to get back to his left, and all he saw were blue jerseys. Dwayne Hendricks leading the charge.
2nd and 13. 6-point Argo lead. Harris with time, completes it. The open receiver is Jake Winicky. First down, Alouettes inside the Argo 40.
That's a big one for the Montreal Alouettes. We've seen Winicky, after a quiet regular season, come up clutch a couple of times now in the playoffs. Big conversion to keep this drive alive. And looking back at that Brandon Banks toe on the sidelines that forced the Argos to settle for 3, keeping the Owls within a touchdown here. Another pivotal moment.
Third catch of the day by Winicky. Throwing again is Harris for Gino Lewis, who time and again has been able to get a foot down and make amazing catches in that area, but not this time. The feet come down out of bounds, incomplete pass.
Yeah, just ran out of room over there. Maybe if we move the hash marks a little closer together. Sees momentum. He took off inbounds. Momentum carried him out.
Second down and 10. Lewis again. And good work after the catch to get inside the 30 and pick up another Montreal first down as the drive continues. Lewis did not have the first down with the reception, but picks up the necessary extra yardage.
And this is exactly the kind of play I was referring to when I talked earlier about that versatility of Eugene Lewis. He's not just a deep ball guy, not just a sideline guy. I mean, they're just running him right into traffic. Shorten the distance between he and the QB. He's got to do a little bit of dirty work.
Impressive drive here brewing by Montreal. Swinging it out to Tyson Philpott, who has a touchdown in this game in the first half, getting it closer to the 20.
And we've seen Philpott going deep a couple of times here in this football game, making some big catches for the Owls, but this is the kind of play I would label as the bread and butter of Tyson Philpott this season. Short pass and letting the kid run. The athlete makes some people miss.
Down to the 22. Stand back on the 2nd and 5. And does not have enough. Still a couple of yards shy by the looks of things. Enoch Mwamba, a former Alouette. He had a few years in Montreal before moving on to the Argos. Man in the middle. And the field goal team not coming on. Dominic Davis, short yardage quarterback. A full yard, really 2 for the Alouettes. And
yeah, circumstance-wise, though, Rod, I think this is the right call for the Alouettes to go for it. You're in this territory. You've been fighting to get back in this one all day.
And the way the Argos have been moving the ball, too, factors in, I'm sure. So they go for it on 3rd and 2. Trying to draw them offside. We saw this in the first half from Bethel Thompson. Chris Edwards wants a flag.
Time count violation, Montreal number 4. This is a 5-yard penalty. It remains 3rd down.
And he gets the flag at the time count, and Montreal's happy to take that in close enough that still field goal range, no problem for David Cote, who's 2 for 2 and had one from the 30 last time, and that's where Joseph Zemel put it down a little bit further out, about the
Timer,
32.
Please reset the game clock to read 4 minutes and 55 seconds. 4:55.
And in the name of fairness, I completely get this from Danny Machocha's point of view. Easy for me to be aggressive and say go for it up here in the booth, but you also risk, if you get stopped, losing the momentum that you have as you're trying to come back in this ballgame.
And pending this field goal try, that's 2 possessions in the second half. And 2 scores. Touchdown by Stanback, and now the field goal by Cote, who's 3 for 3. Gino Lewis had a hand in that and lost his hat. The Alouettes get back to within 3. Eastern Finals, second half, BMO Field. closer to finding out who will represent the East in the Grey Cup, and after that, we find out in the West. What a matchup. Nathan Rourke. What a story this year for that QB up against Zach Collaros. Has done nothing but win with Winnipeg as the Bombers, in pursuit of a three-peat, take on the BC Lions, the West Final from IG Field later today on TSN. In the hands of Andrew Harris. And that is just trademark Andrew Harris. Even in a crowd, finds his way to knife through and pick up close to 10 yards.
Yeah, terrific first down run there from the Argos. And, you know, like really the kind of play, not a huge play in terms of yardage, but the kind of play that for Montreal, you know, hurts them flow-wise, momentum-wise. It's like a punch in the gut when you've been trying to get stops all day and are struggling to do it. And Harris just knifes through them for 9 yards on first down.
Chad Kelly back on, short yardage, keeps it himself, and no problem. Only needed a couple of inches. So Andrew Harris heading back on. Look at the breakdown by age. Impressive enough before the age of 30, but look at the yardage he has racked up since turning 30 years of age, and certainly doesn't appear to be done yet.
Yeah, that doesn't really impress me because I've had about the same number of yards after 50 as I had before 50.
So you're balanced.
Yeah.
You're very consistent. Always admired that about you. For Andrew Harris, reason to wonder if he was ever going to play again. He's playing. Has a touchdown earlier, and on first down has more yardage to add going into that. Had 5 carries for 35 and a touchdown.
You know, it's such a credit to Andrew Harris, the condition that he kept himself in while doing his rehab. It wasn't just about rehabbing the injury, but also about making sure he kept his cardio up, kept his stamina up, you know, made sure his legs were ready to go, because he wasn't going to have in-game conditioning for half the season, but needed to be ready to roll for this moment.
With the blitz coming, Bethel Thompson gets rid of it quickly to Curly Gittins on that 2nd and 5, easily enough for another first down. And this is the thing, the concern for the Alouettes. Their offense has been moving the ball, but defensively trying to slow down this Argonaut juggernaut.
And again, I go back to the previous Argo drive. They were very fortunate that Brandon Banks had one toe out of bounds, as the Argos may have been on their way to putting up 7 instead of 3 on that possession, if not.
A.J. Ouellette, the running back, but instead it goes on the sweep to Brandon Banks. A carry for Banks. He had 4 of them in the regular season, and he has one there that really gets another 10 yards. It'll be a second and a couple of feet shy of another first down.
And I do have a lot of appreciation for the way that Ryan Dinwiddie has called this game, and as an offensive coordinator, but also approached this game as head coach, as you see that meeting between 2 former Hamilton Tiger Cat teammates, Tyrese Beverett over to make the tackle on Banks.
5th different Argo with a carry in this game. Not just Harris and Ouellette. And Kelly, too, in short yardage. Seen that a few times as he works his way through inside the 35, and another first down for Toronto.
But, you know, we talked earlier in this game, Rod, about Toronto going out and getting some veteran guys who have won before, have had success before. And you talk about Brandon Banks, Andrew Harris, Jagarrett Davis. And they're leaning on those guys today. This, you know, regardless of what has gone on through the regular season, whether it's been injuries or inconsistency, lack of production, whatever the case, at a time when they are trying to get to the Grey Cup, a win or go home situation, they're leaning on those guys. It's exactly why they brought them here.
6th touch beforehand for Banks. Handles with it. Bobbles it a bit. Sutton takes him down just shy of the 30. As we get close to 3/4 time in a fast 3rd quarter, with the Argos still leading it, although only by a field goal.
And when you're the Alouettes trying to get back in this one, just knowing how tough the sledding has been. You know, Toronto's kept the Owls D on the field for a while here, marching down. This is where the Alouettes have to tighten up and get a stop when they've got them in 2nd and long.
After the 3 gained by Ambles, it's a 2nd and 7 at the Alouette 31. 3-man rush. Bethel Thompson with time. Into the end zone! Touchdown, Argos! Curly Gittens Jr. And the Boatmen open it up again.
Well, they've been dynamic duo all year long for the Toronto Argonauts. McLeod Bethel Thompson to Curly Gittens Jr. Gittens lines up in the slot. Number 2 receiver. Watch how he gets to the middle of the field here. Beats his defender to the inside. And perfectly placed ball from Bethel Thompson.
If you include the end of the half, they've had 6 scoring drives out of 8 in this game. I tell you, it's not out of the question to have 1,000 net yards between these two. That's the way it's gone. Look at that, 398 for Toronto, 347 for the Alouettes, who now find themselves back into a 10-point hole.
Yeah, and it's a tough situation for Montreal. As you mentioned, the Argos scoring on 6 out of 8 drives in this football game. Montreal just, they need to get some stops in order to reduce that deficit.
The latest score, Curly Gittens Jr., 31-yard touchdown catch from McLeod Bethel Thompson. Nice souvenir.
Fuck Toronto, man.
From a talented receiver in his 3rd year out of Wilfrid Laurier and a real breakout season for Curly Gittens. 6th in the CFL in receiving in the regular season. Chandler Worthy up close to the 30. And the Alouettes, they're down 10, but they've been down worse. And each time they get down, it seems, Trevor Harris has a response. See what they can do now that we're into the final 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure that settling for threes is an option anymore for Harris and the Montreal Alouettes. They've been able to move the ball. Slow start to the football game, but through the 2nd and 3rd quarter, they started moving the football a little bit.
And he's operating at an 87% completion rate. Harris hands off to Walter Fletcher. On that draw, they get the ball up to around the 35. So 2nd, call it a gain of 6, 2nd and 4 coming up here for Montreal.
As William Stanback checks in for Fletcher.
Challenge shifting to that defensive coordinator, Corey Mace of the Argos. Harris is running out of time again, but he escapes the pocket this time. And does manage to get it away. Cole Speaker has it.
Great escape here from Trevor Harris. Recognizes the pocket collapsing around him, things getting tight. Buys himself a little bit of breathing room, moving to his right. Speaker right down the sidelines. The chosen target.
Cole Speaker, inserted into the lineup because of an illness to Hergy Mayala, has 4 catches for 66 yards, and that one a first down Montreal. William Stanback had a big rumble to start the second half, taking it in for a touchdown. Ran half the field for that one. That one a good gain of 9 yards on first down to set up a second and short.
Yeah, you see Stanback, and it starts off slowly, then accelerates through that hole. It's been fun to watch that matchup between he and Enoch Mwamba as this game has gone on. Two guys with tremendous respect for one another, as Mwamba, former Alouette, is one of the guys that Stanback credits with teaching him how to be a pro, kind of looking after him a bit in his rookie year.
Call it a gain of 8 and a second and 2 up near midfield. Montreal down 10. Trying to respond again. Stanback. He works his way through the hole. Took his time. Felt his way through. Gets the first down. More than the 2 yards he needed. Anthony Calvillo, offensive coordinator for the Alouettes.
And I would think Anthony Calvillo likes the production that he's getting from his running backs, particularly William Stanback, who's carried a little more of the load today. It'll be interesting to see at what point the clock becomes their enemy in terms of running the football.
Dumps it off to Stanback. With 79 yards rushing on 11 carries, a lot of it on one big carry in the second half, but receiving there.
Jamal Peters slow to get up after being involved in that takedown of the Alouette running back.
What a key part of the Argo defense Jamal Peters has been this season. Here's the injury.
You see Peters kind of landing face mask first as he went over the pile.
Over the pile and landing on his head. And we're hoping he's okay as he gets attended to by the Argonaut training staff. We'll take a break. Eastern final. Back after this. Back at BMO, the good news, Jamal Peters seems to be okay as he got off the field. But now at a critical point in this game, Toronto has to adjust its secondary. There's Eric Sutton out on the field side corner.
Yeah, Sutton comes in at the field side corner. Tavares McFadden moves from the field to the boundary, where he finds himself immediately matched up with Eugene Lewis, which not a surprise in terms of Montreal's play calling with Jamal Peters going down.
Trevor Harris has thrown for over 300 yards. He's done that in 6 of 7 career playoff starts. Throwing again. Oh, in and out of the hands of Cole Speaker. Good coverage there by Toronto. And it'll be 3rd down now. That was a 2nd and 5 play. With the ball at the Argo 49.
Yeah, Speaker surrounded by blue jerseys as this ball arrives. Looked like he had a chance to catch that one, though. Just got in on the shoulder pads on him. Didn't appear to be deflected by an Argonaut defender.
Joseph Zima's into punt. They are against the wind, and it would have been about a 55-yard try outside the range for David Cote. So the hope for Zima. See if they can get the Argos pinned down deep. This punt sails off. Bit to the left. It is caught inside the 10 by Javon Lake. He tracks back to the left, finds the edge. Brian Harrelem out. Runs him out of bounds.
Robert Priester.
That's Priester.
The latest Argonaut down on the field. So you see 23 right in the middle of the screen. Jostled around between a couple of Alouettes there.
Robert Priester in his first year out of Wyoming, and he started at the Sam linebacker spot to start the season as Chris Edwards was suspended to start the season for a few games. Priester now heading off with Deshaun Amos.
Priester Previously spent some time with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. First year in double blue. Been a valuable guy with that versatility, able to fill in at a couple of spots for the Argos.
The ball is at the 21 Toronto. The Argos have the lead by 10. Under 11 minutes to go here in the fourth quarter. A screen backside, and it's Curly Gittens with the ball in his hands again as he gets that pickup on first down up across the 25.
It looked, as they kind of balance both sides of the field, they're throwing that hitch out to Curly Gittens. They may have had an opportunity on the other side of the field to go to Andrew Harris on the swing. See if they opt for that.
Gittens, the Argos' leading receiver in the regular season, is 8 catches for 87 yards. Bethel Thompson threads the needle there with Najee Murray and Tyrese Beverett right there for that completion. The number 19.
And we see Gittens and Bethel Thompson really just kind of imposing their will on the Montreal defense at times in this football game.
Had been a wide side receiver, moved inside. He's been targeted 9 times, and he's caught all 9, and he's running this time on the sweep, but he loses yardage. Coming in, Wesley Sutton to take Gittens down on that carry.
Yeah, they've run that sweep with Gittens a couple of times. It just strikes me as a little bit of a slow developing play for them. Montreal able to recognize and react here as they see Gittens coming in motion. Sutton beats a block to get into the backfield and snuff that one out, creating this second and extra long.
Back to the 31 now. And 2nd and 14 after that 4-yard loss. Gittens, Bethel Thompson, blitz coming, gets rid of it. And one-on-one coverage with Tavares Daniels and Navis Lyon, and a flag comes out.
Well, 2nd and 14, and the Alouettes just let the Argos off the hook.
Defensive pass interference. Montreal number 23. Point of foul. Automatic first down.
Keep an eye, Lyon in coverage versus Daniels, the receiver. It looked like Lyon might have gotten in trouble here as he just looked off balance for a second there when they came together and got tangled up.
The ball will be moved to the 50-yard line. Timer, please reset the game clock to read 8 minutes and 46 seconds. 8:46.
Tavares Daniels has a touchdown catch in this game. He nearly had another. Wanted a flag on Lyon back in the first half. LT just dragged him just enough to not be able to catch that throw into the end zone by Bethel Thompson. They ended up settling for a field goal on that possession. But he is flagged there, and you're right, it does get Toronto off the hook up to their 50. 1st and 10. A.J. Ouellette, the ball carrier. Up near midfield.
We may be calling that name a little bit more with just over 8 minutes to go in this football game. The 2-possession lead, 10-point the Argos advantage right now. Got to think they want to run that ball, grind Montreal down a little bit, and most importantly, situation-wise, keep that clock running.
He ended up being the Argos' leading rusher, passing Andrew Harris, only at the end of the season, over 500 yards, and a deep ball there, and it is too far for Daniels. Falls incomplete in a 3rd and 5 coming up. So John Haggerty, who has not had a busy day, had 1 punt in the first half, and it's testament to just how well the Argos have been offensively that they haven't needed their Aussie punter much in this afternoon.
Well, Chandler Worthy, the East Division's most outstanding special teams player this season. It's been a game changer at times for the Alouettes with his returns. No better time than the present for him to try and give his team a boost.
Haggerty goes left again. Worthy takes it. The 15. Great when you can get a punt between the hash marks and the sideline, and the Argo special teams unit takes advantage of that. Very little for Worthy on the return around the 20. Statistically, Trevor Harris is having a very good day, but his team is down a couple of scores. Big possession coming up here for the Alouettes. East Division Final on TSN. At this time, we will hand out the Advil dual action play of the game, realizing there could be more, Mr. Ford.
It's premature, but we're doing it anyway. Brandon Banks with the catch off the feet. That kept the Argos drive alive for Andrew Harris. In a very timely moment to score his first touchdown as a Toronto Argonaut on his first touch since returning to the lineup.
The play of the game so far. More to come. 7 minutes on the clock. Harris, the Alouettes, down 10. Jake Winicki with it. Around the 28. Brandon Banks trying to get back to the Grey Cup, but the way these Alouettes are capable of moving the football, still plenty of time on the clock for Montreal. But down, a touchdown, and a field goal.
Time for Montreal to get a couple possessions here for sure, but they can't afford to settle anymore.
At the 29, 2nd and 4. In a crowd and complete to Keon Julian Grant. Enoch Mwamba trying to rip it away at the last second there, but Grant down around across the 40, about the 42. They put it down. First down, Alouettes.
Yeah, meeting here between a couple of former St. FX X-Men of different eras. Julian Grant, drafted by the Als in 2019. Enoch Mwamba, of course, a star in the same school. #1 overall selection back in 2011.
Two of the greats to play for St. FX. Deep ball, and that is caught by Philpott, and what a catch it was, with Royce Mechie all over him, down inside the 35. How about Tyson Philpott today?
Tyson Philpott, East Division nominee as most outstanding rookie, serving notice to anyone who didn't vote for him with a big day here today.
Their leading receiver, 8 catches, 127 yards, and a touchdown. Tyson Philpott, first down Als. Harris, deep down the right again. And Eugene Lewis, the intended receiver, Jamal Peters back in the game and was right there, out of bounds, 2nd down.
And Tyson Philpott, the second of 2 first-round picks for Montreal. They took Terrell Richards at #1 overall. Tyson Philpott at #9, former University of Calgary star, part of a Dinos team. Bit of an ice cream cone catch there, but Dinos team that won the 2019 Vanier Cup over Danny Machoch's Montreal Carabin.
Williams stand back, right side, inside the 30. We said the second of 2 first-round picks for the Alouettes, the second of 2 Philpotts going in that first round. Big brother, twin brother. Well, Jalen is a little bit, a few minutes older, is he? Anyway, Jalen went a little bit ahead in that first round to the Calgary Stampeders.
There you see the numbers over the course of his college career, and of course the lineage. Father Corey had a great CFL career as a running back, now doing some coaching. BC junior football ranks.
By the way, Corey Philpott played for the BC Lions and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yes.
And those are the 2 teams coming up next. Western Final.
Played for BC and Winnipeg, but you know he was cheering for Calgary to win the West.
There you go. Blood is thicker. This game got closer. 3 on the board. Alouettes still down by just 1 score. Tyson Philpott, big catch leading them down to a field goal, and the Alouettes still trailing by 7 here in the fourth quarter. Just 4 minutes to go. The Argo offense has been able to move the ball consistently. Now they want to kill the clock. 852 combined yards of offense in this Eastern final. McLeod, Bethel, Thompson, A.J. Ouellette. They keep it on the ground, and a flag is out.
Offside. Montreal number 6. A 5-yard penalty will repeat first down.
They take the penalty in the 1st and 5 up at the 45 of the Argos.
Yeah, and they see Pickett trying to time that surge, take on the blocker, but just at a time when Montreal just can't afford to make things easier for the Argos.
They met 3 times this regular season. 2 games were meaningful in the standings. The Argos won them both by 1 point each. Both of those games came down to a missed field goal at the very end. They've been that close between the two. The Argos would love a little bit more comfort, but Montreal is not making it easy on them. A.J. Ouellette again, and it's a 2nd down and short.
Well, Harris checks in as Ouellette heads to the sideline for this 2nd and short yardage play. 2 running backs quieted a little bit here in the 2nd half. Not as busy as they were in the opening 30 minutes, where they had a rather massive impact on the face of this football game.
And that handoff is Andrew Harris. It's been a mix of Harris and A.J. Ouellette in this game, with 2:38 on the clock and the 3-minute warning officially given. The Argos trying to get back to the Grey Cup for the first time since 2017, and there is A.J.'s wife, Haley Ouellette. Can she stand the stress?
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers playing in their 4th straight Western final. Nathan Rourke making his 2nd CFL playoff start. I wonder what they're chatting about here. It's coming up next after the Argos, the Owls.
Looking forward to it, Kate. What kind of finish do we have here at BMO Field? 1-score game, 7-point lead for the Argos, and a 3rd and inches with Chad Kelly in with his short yardage play to extend the drive, and you gotta really watch the clock after that. Easy first down for Kelly and more as he gets across the 50, closer to midfield, as the Argos keep possession of this football, and they have done a lot with the ball in this game.
They certainly have. There you see the right side, Dejon Allen. Look how far forward Allen drove from the line of scrimmage. Good guy for Kelly to be following on that play.
Kelly got to play 2 weeks ago in the final game of the regular season against Montreal. Got a start, 26 of 45, nearly 300 yards passing. Short yardage today on the toss. A.J. Ouellette breaks through midfield, close to another first down. Under 2 minutes to go here in the 4th quarter.
A nice execution there, getting things blocked up in front of A.J. Ouellette. He gets a jump start on that toss play. Doing a nice job protecting the football. Had a talk with A.J. a couple of weeks ago about how that has just been ingrained in him.
I mentioned Haley Ouellette, his wife, on the left. She's with her mother at the game. She prefers to watch in the stands and not in the box where a lot of friends and family are. She's a strength and conditioning coach. They run a gym back in Ohio, in Covington, Ohio. She also works with the Cincinnati Reds in spring training in Arizona. And nervously watching her husband play now, and a first down for the Argos as Ouellette. And the boatman can feel it now. 1:38 to go on the clock in this Eastern final. Toronto bound and determined to see it not go down to a final play.
Well, once again here at crunch time, got that Argos offensive line getting it done in a short yardage situation.
The West final still to come in Winnipeg. Bombers, Lions, getting late in this East final now. the Argos trying to clinch a spot in Grey Cup 109 next week at Mosaic Stadium in Regina. Back to the ground. Andrew Harris. I'd take this time to say,
timeout, Montreal.
The Alouettes call a timeout that for a lot of great people in this business, this is the last game of the season. That's Nick Usher, who missed a lot of the season with injury and the injured player down. But to our producer Chris Edwards, our director Franklin Rubenstein, and so many other talented people in this crew that have given us great pictures, stories all season long. It's been a pleasure working with you and looking forward to doing the same next season. And to you, my partner Dwayne Ford, always a pleasure.
Thank you, and likewise, my friend, and a definite shout out to our crew on the sidelines, in the truck, in the stands behind those cameras. That you know, people see us on TV. That is very much the tip of the iceberg of the team that brings you the CFL every week. And as good as they are at their jobs, we get to work with a lot of even better people.
I think you'd agree the most talented ones are the ones you don't see.
No question about that.
But yeah, great job to all of you again. And it's not over yet, but it is at just a really critical point here for the Alouettes. Usher off now, and the Argos on a second down and long now, in a game where they would find a way to score most times that they had the ball, including possession number 1 and a touchdown by Andrew Harris. And for McLeod Bethel Thompson, who was a backup to Ricky Ray in 2017 with the Argos, now the starter. And Andrew Harris wrapped up high. They want a face mask call on Mike Moore on that tackle of Andrew Harris. No flags are out. Oh, we do see a flag. The Argos wanted a call.
Major foul, face mask, Montreal. Number 44. This is a 15-yard penalty that will result in a first down.
And once again, an Alouette penalty gets Toronto off the hook.
Yeah, I mean, this is by no means an intentional play. Mike Moore is just grasping, trying to make a tackle. But in the grand scheme of things, yeah, you look at the number of times that we found ourselves saying Montreal has shot themselves in the foot, or they let Toronto off the hook. You know, I mean, they had them in a second and long situation out near midfield.
Flags out. A.J. Ouellette adding to his totals, getting inside the 20. Was that an offside against Montreal?
Offside, Montreal. That penalty is declined. First down.
Watch Ouellette at the tail end of this play. It's all about ball security. He knows the game situation. Less important to score a touchdown than it is to make sure you maintain possession. So he just covers up that rock and kind of takes the hit.
The Argos under a minute close to putting this away. 7-point lead, ball at the 20. That close to a chance to face either BC or Winnipeg in the Grey Cup. And speaking of BC and Winnipeg, for that man 33, Andrew Harris, we can guarantee you if Toronto hangs on to win, he will be facing an old team where he won the Grey Cup before. Not just Winnipeg, he started with the Lions and won it there in 2011. What would it mean to him against either of those franchises if Toronto can finish things off?
And no question, you don't care who you play. You just want to get there. Andrew Harris, no doubt thrilled to get back in this lineup and help his Toronto Argonauts reach the big dance.
McLeod Bethel Thompson takes a knee. Little extra action after the whistle, some pushing and shoving and tempers flaring. With just seconds on the clock, and the double blue can feel it. Ryan Dinwiddie, who started in a Grey Cup at quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers back in 2007.
His first career start came in that Grey Cup game after Kevin Glenn was injured a week earlier in the division final.
And McLeod, Bethel Thompson, Andrew Harris. They can feel it now.
Bethel Thompson has a ring from 2017. He was a backup behind Ricky Ray. Will get to start in the Grey Cup.
This time, the Argos wrote a different story from 1 year ago. They scored early, they scored often, and they are off to Grey Cup 109 in Regina. Andrew Harris getting it started with a touchdown on his first carry. And for Ryan Dinwiddie in his second year as a head coach, is now getting back to the Grey Cup.
A nice moment there between the two starting quarterbacks. McLeod Bethel Thompson was looking for a game in which he felt he dominated, in which he felt there was consistency. I think he came up with that game today at just the right time for the Toronto Argonauts. He was on point from start to finish.
19 of 27 for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. So who will the Argos face in the Grey Cup? It's been a while in the case of Winnipeg. This is remarkable. The last time the Bombers and Argos met in the Grey Cup was 1950, a game won in the mud by Toronto, 13-0. It's been 72 years, and yes, they did that kind of thing back then. Far more recent for the Argos in Winnipeg. Head coach Pinball Clemens in Ottawa up against the Lions. And it was the Argos victorious 27-19 in that game. We're only going back 18 years for that matchup. It's one of the two. It'll be either Toronto BC or Toronto Winnipeg in Grey Cup 109. There's the banner for 1950. Amazing to think that Winnipeg and Toronto, despite the Bombers' years in the East for a few, still have not met in the Grey Cup that long.
Yeah, for what has primarily been a 9-team league. For most of those years in between, only so many permutations and combinations of who can meet in the Grey Cup. But remarkable the way that it has unfolded.
So we still await the winner of the West. Garrett Davis going back again. He did with Calgary for 3 years. He did with Hamilton. This number 6.
Hey, the streak remains alive. Listen, the best job in Canadian football is to be Garrett Davis's teammate. It's a sure thing. He's going to Grey Cup every year.
His heart was broken by the Argos in 2017 with Calgary, but won the next year with the Stampeders, and then 2019 lost to that guy, Andrew Harris, who had an outstanding day, McMahon Stadium in Calgary. Remember this, Winnipeg underdogs against Hamilton. Andrew Harris took off on that day. Grey Cup MVP, 134 yards rushing, couple of touchdowns. He had that reception for a TD as well. And did he celebrate? And the Bombers, too, ending a drought of 29 years. And now Andrew Harris. And let's face it, it was very contentious, the parting from Winnipeg. Imagine if it is Harris and the Argos going up against the Bombers.
Well, great storylines, no matter the matchup.
No matter, you're right. There were some hard feelings for him leaving Winnipeg, and even this season earlier when he got hurt, he didn't even know if he'd play the game again, let alone this season. Coming back, contributing. McLeod Bethel Thompson as the undisputed starter. And for Montreal, what can you say about Eugene Lewis and the year he had, falling short in the East Division final, but the East nominee for most outstanding player up against Zach Collaros in that department? Now let's go down to Claire Hanna. Claire?
Well, the Toronto Argonauts are the 2022 Eastern Division champions. There's the trophy. Now, I heard nobody wants to touch it. Head coach Ryan Dinwiddie, you guys haven't been to the Grey Cup since 2017. Fantastic job out here today. What does it mean to know that you're going to be playing for this championship title?
I mean, that's what we signed up for, right? That's our ultimate goal. We got 3 down. We got 1 more to go. Thanks to our fans for showing up. That was awesome.
You guys got up to this strong start in the game today. It felt like Montreal kept responding. You guys kept your foot on the gas pedal. What was the key today?
I think our offense played great. I mean, look at McLeod's performance, right? I think some skeptics are going to be a little bit quiet on him right now.
Tell me about your duo in rushing backs here, or running backs rather. What does it mean to have Andrew Harris back on this team?
It's awesome. You could just see him and AJ. That's a good flow. I mean, there's times where it wasn't blocked cleanly. They found a way to get positive yardage, and then that's how we won the game. We ran the ball and ran out the clock.
Now, I have a bet on what you're doing tonight. You're probably watching the other final. Does it matter who you play, and what's your approach going to be?
Really, it's out of our hands anyways, but we don't care who we play. I mean, we're there. It's going to be a great team. We're going to be playing regardless. We'll be watching it, and we'll be working all night.
And you were in the 2007 Grey Cup. I want to know what you remember from that game.
Just the whole experience. We played here in Toronto, right? Got my first start. We had a chance to win at the end. We didn't. I think wins and losses, you remember them differently, but I still remember that game, and I wish I had a better performance towards the end.
Well, congratulations, Ryan, and enjoy the party.
Thanks, Claire. Appreciate it.
Jubilant Toronto Argonauts led by Ryan Dinwiddie, and yeah, they don't care, and I believe they don't care. They split their season series with BC. They were very close to going to overtime against Winnipeg, and either way, I'm expecting it to be a very good Grey Cup game next week.
Yeah, no question about that. You look at this Toronto Argonaut team, people can say whatever they want about strength of East versus strength of West or whatever. The Argos put together a terrific game plan today and executed it almost flawlessly. And, I mean, that's something that holds up regardless of who your opponent is. So, yeah, you expect at this time of year teams to play their best football. The Toronto Argonauts are showing that they can do that. I'm sure you're going to see in a few minutes as BC and Winnipeg face off. Both those teams are going to deliver their very best, setting the stage for what should be a fantastic Grey Cup 109.
Brandon Banks. With Hamilton, he got close, so close, like last year in overtime against Winnipeg. And heartbreaking losses in 2019 to the Bombers. And in 2014, when he had that big punt return called back when Hamilton was up against the Calgary Stampeders. But he's going to the Grey Cup again, and so too is McLeod. Bethel Thompson standing by now with Claire.
McLeod, congratulations on this win. Just walk me through what you're feeling right now.
I don't really know. Just appreciation, man. Appreciation for my teammates. We got such a great locker room. We got such strong warriors, such good men. It's the great thing about this league, man. It's bigger than football, and everyone needs to protect this, man. The leadership in this league needs to do better, man. We got really good, really amazing players. And they're good warriors. They're good people. We exemplify that here in this locker room, man. I'm just so grateful and so honored to be a part of them. And I'm honored that this little one could watch me today.
You've told me you keep searching for that full, complete game. How close was this to that?
Yeah, I missed that sluggo to Didi right there at the end. That would have been a clincher right there. I just kind of pushed it a little too far. Wish I would have just put it on his head and let him make a play. So we're getting there. We're getting close. But the biggest thing is it's not about me. It's about this team, And we got some really good men, and we got one more next week. I'm just grateful for the moment, grateful for everything that today presented.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
And in terms of stats that have no bearing on this team, the Argos have the rare distinction of winning the last 6 Grey Cups that they've been to. That goes back to the 1980s. The last one they lost was 87 against Edmonton. So trying to keep that streak alive. next week against either team. Let's go back to Claire and Andrew Harris. Claire?
Andrew, congratulations. You're going to be playing in your 3rd Grey Cup in as many years, but what does it mean just to get this win here today with Toronto?
I mean, it was an adverse year. I mean, adverse situation coming into this thing, but you know, we had confidence. We played loose. We played together all 3 phases, and I'm proud of this win. I'm proud of my teammates, and I'm looking forward to getting back to the big dance again.
Let's just talk about your journey for a second, okay? You're out in August. You think you're done for the season. You come back here. You start things off with a touchdown right away. Just how are you feeling, and how did you do it?
I'm ecstatic, man. I mean, I had some extra motivation this week, you know, with the new son, and you know, great changes in my life. So I mean, I'm just pumped to be back in the lineup. Worked my butt off to get to this point, and you know, I'm just here to support my teammates and make impact plays any way I can.
Who do you want to play in the Grey Cup?
Don't matter. Don't matter to me. Don't matter. Whoever's coming to us, we're going to get them. So it doesn't matter who we play.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
The easy political answer is he wants to play one of his old teams. What do you think?
Hey, with a new baby in the house, I think Andrew's happy to get a week in a hotel. Get a little bit of sleep. But no, what a great finish to a wonderful week in the life of Andrew Harris.
Said that's the safe thing we can say. He will play an old team, either the Winnipeg Blue Bombers or the team you started with, the BC Lions, to be determined. And what an afternoon here for the Toronto Argonauts at home as they defeat the Montreal Alouettes in the East Division Final. The West Final still ahead as we send it back to Kate Burness in the studio. Thanks for watching, everyone.
And alongside David Sanchez, Matt Dunnigan, Milt Stegall, and now we know the Toronto Argonauts officially into the Grey Cup for the first time since 2017. And Rod mentioned the stat, but quite the run the Argos are on when it comes to the Grey Cup. They have won the last 6 championship games they have played in. It all started back in 1991 when yours truly, Matt Dunnigan, was there with the Argos. The last time they lost in the Grey Cup, by the way, that was 1987. We will see how they fare against either the Lions, who they went 1-1 against this season, or the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who they lost their only game to. But that was a 1-point game. It was magnificent. I don't think any of us are overly mad that the Argos are in this game. And Milt, let's just start with some big plays by some key players in this one.
Talk about big plays. McLeod Bethel-Thompson had 299 yards passing. Over half of them came on 4 plays, 4 big plays. You had 2 of your running backs, Ouellette, and of course Andrew Harris, and then you had DeVaris Daniels and Curly Gittens Jr. also. Big play, catching the ball down the field. And that's what you look for in games like this. Of course, you don't care how you get it, but when you can get those big plays, that's demoralizing to the opposing defense. And the shout-out has to go to Andrew Harris. The fact that he was able to play in the game, the fact not only he played in the game, but the way he played. And let me answer that question for you, Andrew Harris. You know you want to play against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Yeah, I know BC is your former team, but most of your former teammates are on those Winnipeg Blue Bombers, so I'll answer that to you. So congratulations. It's going to take another performance like that, whoever you're playing against next week, but you got to get a shout out to Andrew Harris for the fact he was able to come out and play at a high level.
Yeah, at the top of the show, we were asked what we thought were the biggest storylines going in this one, and obviously one of them was Andrew Harris. The other one was Wynton McManus coming in back and play for the Toronto Argonauts, and him going out early in that football game with a hand injury. I'm paying attention to that over the course of the week, but congratulations to Andrew Harris and the Toronto Argonauts. Ryan Dinwiddie getting back to the dance. 11-7 on the East this year. And they were clearly the best team down the stretch and had some explosive plays. But our biggest question amongst ourselves, too, is how are they going to introduce Andrew Harris, and are they going to disrupt the balance of the rushing attack and offensive flow? I saw it was pretty seamless. They had 3 catches amongst each other, A.J. Ouellette and Andrew Harris, for 83 yards and a touchdown. And then they were balanced out. And as total rushing yards, this football team had 101 yards rushing amongst them, right? A little Speedy B mixed in there, and we got a little Chad Kelly. But I thought it was a tremendous game plan and well executed by the Toronto Argonauts on all 3 phases, as you heard everybody talk about. And typically, that's what it takes to win in playoff football.
You guys both talked about the offense and the big plays, and I would like to go to their defense, but I don't know if I can. I mean, they gave up some yards. 360 yards to Trevor Williams, Stanback, Rashford, 7 yards per carry.
Right.
I don't look. They got it done. They found a way to. Right. They found a way to get it done. And I think the biggest thing is, like we talked about, coming into the game, it was clear Macbeth felt really good about that matchup, and we've talked a lot about his play and on and off and throughout the season, the good and the bad. And I'll say this. He does make big throws. We've seen a lot of guys miss throws this year. He makes a lot of big throws in big-time situations. And in a big game, I'll take Macbeth. I said it this week. I'll take Macbeth in a big game. I just think he's fearless. I think he attacks defenses, and that's difficult. You saw it today. The way he attacked that Montreal secondary, I like what he does.
And we heard after the game there, that Claire asked him, did you execute the game you wanted to? And he said pretty much, but he was already critical of the one sluggo that he missed, and I get that. But, Coach, I think looking at it from your perspective, that was a great game plan by the Argos today.
Yeah, you know, you're looking at the yardage numbers. 446. That's a decent amount of yardage. They did a lot of it on the short passing game. They got a lot of screen passes. They got 25 first downs, and that's where I thought the game was won. You get 25 first downs, other things can happen. But they use screen passes to their advantage. Short passes on the outside, that opened up some of the deeper throws later in the game, like the guys like Milt already talked about, the explosives. Here's one of the big touchdowns, right? McLeod sees it's two deep man under. You got everybody underneath man coverage. Safeties go across the field. He can see easy opportunity when the safety moves. I got the middle of the field for an easy throw for a touchdown, right? So I thought that they managed staying on the field to put them in a position to get the big plays when they needed to. No turnovers for them. Montreal had the turnover, didn't score as many touchdowns, obviously, with the 4 to the 2 touchdowns. So really good game plan by the Argos, and looking forward to seeing them next week.
And now the big question is, who will they play? Will it be the BC Lions or the Winnipeg Blue Bombers getting set for the Western Final, which is coming up next?